Howdy, gang. Candace must be running a little bit late, so I don't see her in here right now backstage. So I will try to keep you guys and gals entertained as well as I can. I'm actually gonna try to close this door a little bit so I don't have too much of a glare from the natural lighting out there. Which the natural lighting is good. It's just it puts the doors right there, so it puts a little bit of a glare. And there is Candace. So I'm not going to go on too long before I get her on here, but I will tell people that, and for the benefit of Candace too, I'm getting ready to order my lunch from Chili's. So I may have to get up at, well, I will have to get up at some point and go get that. But I just want to remind everybody of what we've got coming up this weekend and a little bit about the new things that me and Candace are going to be doing. And, well, actually, I'll wait until she's on here with me to talk about that. That way, we both can talk about it with you guys and gals, um, because she is a part of it. So, I will tell you that I've got a couple of watch alongs coming up Saturday and Sunday. And these will be in celebration of the 40th anniversary of A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time will be the original A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, directed by Wes Craven. And no remakes. We're not talking about that remake on here. I refuse to talk about that remake any more than I have to. But we're talking about the original. I have a cake that I'm going to be decorating Freddy style. I don't know if I'll be having the cake Saturday and Sunday, but definitely Saturday for sure. We'll be celebrating in style. Uh, Oh, thank you, Chris. Chris says, "Hey, Dana, just a heads up. There's a storm brewing outside. So if I lose Candace, uh, they may have lost power. So we'll hope that that doesn't happen. We could get storms too. It's already been raining this morning here. Um, so I'll try to quit my rambling so we can at least get Candace on here before they possibly lose power. And if she loses power and it doesn't come back on for a while, then we can simply reschedule this. Maybe we can do it Sunday or something at 1 or something like that if Candace has time. But barring anything happening, we'll go ahead and do this show as planned. So Sunday's watch along, also starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, will be Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And I think that'll be a fantastic bookend to the original Nightmare on Elm Street, both which were directed by Wes Craven. And that was Chris's idea to do New Nightmare. So I have to give credit where credit is due. And now, without further ado, I'm going to add Candace real quick here. Hey, Candace.
Hey, Dana. Hey, everybody. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. The fireworks went off until almost 3 o'clock in the morning,
Oh,
Candace.
my God.
Dear, and they weren't as loud. That was the good thing, but you know,
Yeah.
I don't know why in Louisville. I don't know if in other big cities they do that forever and ever and ever, but here in Louisville they do. Somebody spent a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, you were sending me messages last night and I could hear them going off. I mean, they kind of quit. I'm not talking about just in my hometown in particular, but just around our neighborhood, around maybe 10:30, something like that, before 11, I'm sure, because I wasn't hearing anything, thankfully.
And Candace, I'll tell you, even if you don't lose power, if it gets bad and you don't want to be sitting there in front of a computer or something, just let
Yeah.
me know and we can always reschedule this. Because
Okay. But I think everything's going to be okay.
I don't think anybody wants to see anybody get struck by lightning on
Lord, no.
live stream. So, um, I cut the string pretty short the other night when I was doing apples and oranges, and I think I got off there just in time because then we lost power within
Mm.
10, 15 minutes of me getting off there. So anyway, Candace, you want to talk about what we've got planned
Yeah, go
for the
ahead.
future before we get to these movies?
Yeah, got some pretty exciting things coming up.
We do. Me and Candace have been collaborating and talking back and forth about what we want to do and how we want to approach this and all
Mhm.
these different things. Who's going to be doing what? We've been doing a little bit of talking about that. So, the first thing I want to talk about is I'm going to continue to do Deadites on Deck. Never fear, Deadites on Deck is not going to go away. I'm still going to be doing content for that. However, due to me and Candace as well, because she's going to be a huge part of this new project. Um, we're trying to appeal to a wider audience. We love the audience we have, but there may be people that's not necessarily into horror that much. So the sister site to Deadites on Deck is going to be called Waiting on Woodstock.
Mhm.
And I explained it to Candace as I want this site to be, it can be for people from that Woodstock era. I don't want to exclude anybody, but it can also be for people that were not even alive during that era,
Yeah.
but who feel a kinship to that era, that like the music and the fashion and possibly the hairstyles, the television shows that were on, the movies that were out, the books that were being written during that time. Uh, that will kind of allow that kinship to grow. Me and Candace both collect different things. So
Mhm.
I know Candace has things that she's collected over the years that would be from that era
Yeah.
or be referenced from that era. We're also going to be talking about the darker side of
Mhm.
some of these things. It's not going to be all light and whimsical. So if you're like,
No.
I don't want to get into that peace and love crap, stay tuned because
Oh,
we're going to
yeah.
be talking about Charles Manson.
Yeah. Some true crime stuff,
Yeah,
guys.
true crime stuff. We're gonna kinda slide into the '70s as well, which
Yeah.
that can include even more true crime.
Mhm.
You got things like Son of Sam, you've got Ted
Yep.
Bundy. There's just tons of them. So if you are interested in true crime, I know, Blissful is a little bit. I don't
Mhm.
see Blissful in here right now, but she may have tired herself out on the 4th. She may be, getting some extra rest. But I know at one time she was kinda into that true crime stuff, and
Yeah.
I have a morbid curiosity for that type of stuff anyway. So we're also gonna be talking about the darker side of some of the bands from
Yes.
that era. And just a note, some of the subject matter is gonna be kinda sensitive.
Yeah.
We're gonna handle it with grace and
Yes.
dignity as best we can, but just
We've
wanted
already discussed that, we talked about that already.
so I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that some of it could
Yeah.
include suicide and things like
Yeah.
that. So if you are sensitive to that stuff and would rather not watch something like that, where we could possibly be talking about, well, this person took their own life. If that disturbs you, then you can bow out of that when you say, that's not for me, because I'm going to make it known kind of in a brief
Yeah.
synopsis what we're going to be talking about. Okay, so we got that coming up. Me and Candace are
Yeah.
both excited about that.
Very excited. Yeah.
As soon as I get off my lazy butt and get the site up and all that stuff, then we'll start moving forward with putting content on it. Me
Mhm.
and Candace have already come up with our special names. We'll call each other Dana and Candace.
Yeah.
Like our screen names on here will be the hippie names that we've
Yeah.
chosen for
We
our.
thought that would be the fun little thing to include. Just, not taking stuff as seriously as, people expect you to. So we just want to be a little bit fun. And, me and Dana are really into this. So this is a common kinship. I mean, I love horror. But this is something I'm really into. And me and Dana both, we bond over that stuff because we both are really into like that culture and that time period and just that whole movement. So this is something that's going to be really fun for both of us. Everything that we do together is fun anyway, I think. So this is really going to be fun because we got a lot. I mean, it's all not dark, it's all not, serious. There's
Mhm.
going to be some, like Dana had brought up, like the fashion and stuff too. There's a lot of people, back then. I mean, that was a very, wouldn't you say, a prominent time in like the fashion
Oh, definitely.
with
Definitely.
bell bottoms and, broom handle skirts and flowers
Granny
in your hair,
dresses and the granny glasses and
your fringe.
yeah,
But
all
then you
the
have people
yeah.
like Twiggy or people like that really pushed, different types of like fashion levels. So we got a lot of stuff we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna make it interesting too. So just
Mhm.
keep on the lookout if you're interested in that kind of thing.
And, so the other thing that we're gonna be doing is on the Deadites on Deck channel. On Thursdays, I had previously been alternating between Seductive Poison and Resurgence, doing triple threat review shows, and the all new I Know What You Shot on Video, where I've been talking about shot on video films. So now I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to take a break from Seductive Poison for a little bit until I can figure out where I want to put that. It may go away for a short time, it may go away for a long time, but never fear, we have something to slide into that time slot, alternating between the shot on video stuff. And I haven't given this show a name yet. I got to get off my lazy butt and do that as well. But it's gonna be kind of a variety type show, kinda
Mhm.
like Friday Foolish, but a little
Yeah.
bit different as well.
Kinda like Sonny and Cher. I'll
Yeah,
be Sonny and Dana can be Cher.
only I'm not gonna be, mocking Candace like like Cher did. I'm gonna be nice, I'm gonna play nice, with that. I'm not saying Cher didn't love Sonny. I think Cher
Yeah.
continued to love Sonny till the day he died.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think she still loves him. But I can save that. We can talk about Sonny and Cher either on the new sister channel
Yeah.
or on
Yeah.
that variety show because they are definitely part of that era.
Mhm.
So, um, Candace, is there anything you wanted to bring up about either of those two things before we get to the movies? Or
I think that you've pretty well covered it all, just stay tuned because we got some stuff brewing and I think it's gonna have something for everyone.
yeah, I think so too. All right. So Candace, you told me that you had your whole list of, or you were going to get your list together of
Yeah,
movies
yeah.
that you wanted to cover and make notes and all that.
Yeah, just in my mind, like, kinda thing, because 'cause I'm gonna kinda be doing it a little bit different, than I usually do it,
Okay.
because summer movies, it kind of it reaches a wide variety of things. Most people when they think of summer movies, I'm a little bit different than everybody. Maybe people, some people has to have stuff categorized in certain ways. Cough, cough, Chris. He looks at summer
We're
movies
going
as
to pick on
movies that,
Chris today.
but me, I want to also talk about movies that I like to watch during the summer. They don't necessarily have to be,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, summer based films, but just I'm kind of going to go like a wide variety of things. So I've got my stuff ready. I'm ready to talk about some stuff if you are.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, if it's okay with you, Candace, because I'm just getting ready to make an order with Chili's. If
Okay.
you wanted to start talking about your first one, I'll go ahead and get this order in place. And I may step over here and see if Sammy wants to come in. Chris is rolling.
Okay.
Uh, So I'll go ahead and let Candace start. And if y'all see me looking down, it's not because I'm not paying attention. It's just that I'm placing this order real quick. And so I'm going to let Candace go ahead and start.
Well, the first movie that I want to talk about is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I know that you all hear me say that a lot. That's my favorite movie of all time. Or that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Well, I have a lot of favorite movies, but this is actually one of my, definitely, probably my top. If it's not my top five, it's definitely in my top 10. It's probably in my top five um, because I just love it. It's a very special film to me. It's a film that I used to watch with my grandpa. And a lot of films you'll notice if you hear me say that it's some of my most favorite films of all time. I have a lot of good memories watching some movies with my grandpa. Um, so, but this one is just even if I hadn't watched it with him, it probably would have been one of my favorites anyway because it's just awesome. It's Joe Dante's 1989 film, The Burbs, starring what, Tom Hanks, Carrie Fisher, Bruce Dern. I mean, what's not great with Bruce Dern? I love Bruce Dern. Corey Feldman. Uh, what is that one guy's name? Rick Ducommun or
Oh,
something like that.
yeah, the guy that is
Plays
Tom
Art.
Hanks' neighbor and his friend Art.
Yeah, yeah. He also played in another film I love, Encino Man. He's like the teacher. I just love that guy. I mean, it's The Burbs is a really great movie, and I'm sure a lot of people's already seen The Burbs, but um, what makes this, I know it's not necessarily like, it's not a camp movie. It's not a movie that's, you know, like something like The Sandlot or something like, that bases around summer.
Mm,
But it definitely is a movie that I enjoyed watching during the summer, like on summer vacation and stuff. I always would watch The Burbs. During The Burbs, it looks like it's summertime. And, they talk about like the sweltering heat and stuff when they're talking about stuff. But if you've never seen The Burbs, I highly recommend it. And, it's a John Dante, John, Joe Dante film, if I can talk. I think I'm still a little addled from all the stuff that we did yesterday during the fireworks. I think that smoke got to my got to my head. But Joe Dante, I mean, The Howling, the Gremlins, and Gremlins 2, A New Batch. I mean, what's not to love whenever it comes to him? I love Joe Dante. Um, but with this film, I mean, you get spooky, you get funny, you get all kinds of stuff. And basically, if you've never seen The Burbs, it revolves around typically, the main character is Tom Hanks, and he plays a guy named Ray Peterson. And he's got a wife, is Carol, who is played by, Carrie Fisher.
mm.
They got a son, and they live in this suburban town, really nice suburban town. They got neighbors. He's got Art, Mr. Weingartner as Ricky Butler, the teenage, hellion that lives next door.
This has to be one of my favorite Corey Feldman,
Yes,
right?
definitely. Ricky Butler, that kid's a meatball. Yeah, Corey Feldman, he plays Ricky Butler, and he's just, kind of observing the town. He's like a teenager, and he's just,
Mhm.
just looking for stuff, and he notices all kinds of things. But Tom Hanks, his character Ray, lives next door to this house, and while all of the other houses are, they're beautiful, got a lot of greenery, um, and it's just everything is really nice. This house next door to them, which is at the end of the roundabout, because the very last house on that street is an old man's house. And the guy is played by Gail Gordon. If you know who Gail Gordon is, if you love Lucille Ball, if you've ever watched, like the Lucy Show, or even I Love Lucy, Gail Gordon has been in those, and he played Mr. Mooney in the Lucy Show, um, which I'll talk about that here in a second. But he plays a guy named Walter, and he lives on the end of the street. Well, here's Walter's house on the end of the street. Then here is that house that is next door to Mr. Peterson's house, Ray's. This house does not look like the rest of the house. It looks like it has been just neglected, and all the trees have died. The grass is brown. There's like crows everywhere. It's just looks like a haunted house, you know. So the people who live in this house, they never see them out. You know, there's whispers around the neighborhood that, you know, that there's something weird going on with these people because they never even seen the older couple who own the house move out. So
Mm.
there's something weird about this. They didn't see them move in. It's just, you know, they just appeared there one day, and this house, you know, just looks like it's falling apart, you know, since they lived there. Across the street is where Bruce Dern's character lives, him and his wife. His wife's name's Bonnie. I forget the woman's name that
I
plays.
think is it Wendy Shaw
I
or
think so. I think you're right. Yeah. And, you know, she's this babe, you know, hot looking babe, you know, blonde, um, a very nice woman, you know. And Ricky, you know, the Corey Feldman's character, you know, he observes her, you know.
I
But,
like that one line. Sorry to interject
oh,
here.
that's all right.
I like that one line. He's looking at her butt one morning, and he said, "No time." He said, "Miss Rumsfeld, no tan lines this morning."
Yeah,
And
no tan lines this morning, Miss. Yeah. And Bruce Dern, he says that kid's a meatball, you know, which goes back to Corey Feldman being in the film Meatballs.
mm-hmm.
But you know, Bruce Dern's character, Mark Rumsfeld, or Mr. Rumsfeld, whatever you want to call him, he's like ex-military. He's just really patriotic, really cares about his lawn. And we'll get to the people that lives in the you know, the old rundown house here just in a second. But the guy that lives on the end of the street, Walter, has a little dog, Queenie. And if you guys are familiar with like Silence of the Lambs or Big Top, or no, it wasn't Big Top Pee Wee, it's a Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And I think she was like in Batman Returns and stuff. That little dog is Precious from Silence of the Lambs, the one that plays Queenie in in the Burbs. So this little dog, Queenie, she goes and like uses the bathroom and you know, Mr. Rumsfeld's lawn, and he keeps on stepping in it, and he's tired of it, and this whole thing between him and Walter, the old man that lives at the end of the road, you know, and that's funny too. But anyway, let's get back to the old rundown mansion. It's not really a mansion, but it kind of is. It looks like it is. It's like an old home, like a Victorian home. Um, the people that live in this community, you know that there's something up, you know, that these people are off. I mean, they don't take care of their house. It's just falling apart since they've lived there. But there have been whispers of nighttime ramblings of these people, like they're night people. Like there's been like sightings of them digging in their yard late at night. And, you know, Tom Hanks' character, Ray, you know, has been observing what he's seeing, you know. Corey Feldman's character, Ricky, he, you know, he notices stuff, he hears stuff because he kind of watches the town. So all eyes start to go on to this house. And one night they're all out and they're talking. I think it was Ray. I think it was Ray and was it Ray and Corey Feldman's character and that Art. I think it was them that was out
I
whenever
think so. Yeah,
well, they heard this big rumbling down in the basement
yeah.
of this house. And it just the god awful noise and this like bright light come from underneath it. And it was just like so loud that it just made them like cover their ears. It was like a screeching noise and sounded like something like some kind of big machinery was going off underneath here and like power was generating to it. And then after all that happened, a big, huge, well, before that happened, their like garage door opens up and this car comes down to the end of their driveway. This guy gets out. He's really odd looking, you know, scruffy, and he's got suspenders on and a wife beater, as they call them. I don't like using that term, but like a tank top, you know.
Right.
And he stuffs his garbage and like is like hitting it
And
in
he
there.
eats it.
Yeah, beats it to death. Well, at that time, I think Mr. Rumsfeld is out there. I'm probably getting it all.
Yeah, yeah, I think Bruce
Yeah,
Stern's character, Mr. Rumsfeld, was out
he's
there.
out there, and they're like watching them and stuff. You just have to watch it. I'm probably, like I said, I'm not great at like going over what stuff is, and I can't describe stuff
And
good.
I would just like to say that the character, the one of the Klopeks, as we kind of
Yeah,
come to know, that comes out there and is beating this
yeah.
trash bag of God knows what to death. That's actually Courtney Gaines,
Courtney Gaines, yeah, and
who uh, who was in Children of the
yeah,
Corn for one
yeah.
thing.
He was in Children of the Corn, and he, I actually met um Courtney Gaines. He was really
Oh,
nice.
cool.
Yeah, really, really nice. And but anyway, you just see all this stuff happening, and they just try to work up this, like, because they're convinced that these people are murderers, that they are, that they're burying people in their backyard. I'm not going to keep on going over it because I'm just going around in circles trying to describe it, but they just are, they know something's up with these people, and they know they're up to no good. They know that they do stuff that's weird and off and that's bad. So they're determined to get to know these people, to get inside their house, and all these shenanigans happen. And one of their neighbors gets missing, and they're convinced that they he's been murdered by these people, the Klopeks, which is two brothers. Now I can't remember. I know that um the uncle, brother, his name is Brother Theodore.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that. I always remember his name, Brother
exactly.
Theodore. He is Henry Gibson's brother, who plays Doctor Klopek.
Yeah.
They're brothers. So I can't remember what Courtney Gaines. His name is Hans Klopek. I can't remember if he's their nephew. I think he's their nephew.
I think he is their nephew.
But anyway, they end up going into the house. They invite themselves in, and there's, just, it's, you just have to watch it. I don't want to give anything away, but there's a lot that happens there. And they're determined to find the body of this missing neighbor, which you'll find out who it is and stuff whenever you watch it. And just the shenanigans that they get into is just really funny. There's a sardine and pretzel part that I always loved.
There's a toupee part
There's a
later on.
toupee part, yeah. And actually, which I'll go ahead and say it, the missing neighbor is supposed to be Walter, the old man with the dog. They find Queenie running around. She's all dirty, and
Yeah.
and then they go to his house and find that he's missing. He's not there. They find a bone, and they think it's his. I think a femur. The
Yeah.
dog brings up a femur from next door, the Klopek's house, and they're determined that it's Walter's because he's missing. And they break into his house and find his toupee. No, they find his toupee at the Klopek's house.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks stuffs it down in his pants and he pulls it out.
Yeah. And
And
they're like, whoa, don't touch
yeah.
that. They don't know what he's gonna do.
But there's a Easter egg that for years and years and years, and I think I've already like brought this up on Dana's one of her other streams before. But there is a scene when they break into Walter's house that I never noticed because there's a pan of the camera that goes like sideways through his house, Walter's house, and it pans over to the TV, and you only see it briefly. And it shows the TV. The TV's on, it's playing, it's floor model TV, and there is some pictures on top of the TV. And I never noticed until probably about maybe 10 years ago or something. It wasn't very long ago that I discovered it after all the times I've ever watched it in my life, that there is a picture of Gail Gordon's character as Mr. Mooney in the Lucy show with Lucille
I
Ball.
remember you saying
Yeah.
that before.
And that picture is kind of turned so you can see it. And if you don't pay attention, you will not notice. You totally, like, look how many times I've seen it and had never noticed it. So if you've never noticed that, watch that next time and you'll see it. And if you're a Lucy fan like me, she's my favorite person in the world. So that was really exciting to see because I loved his character in the Lucy show as Mr. Mooney. But the movie is great. It's to me, and I'm not just saying this. I mean, I love Forrest Gump. I love a lot of Tom Hanks films. I mean, I love Tom Hanks,
Me
but this
too.
would have to be my all-time favorite Tom Hanks film. I mean, I love it. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Um, it's like I said, if it helped shape my love for spooky things. It's definitely one of those defining films for me that helped shape who I am today. And like I said, I do not describe stuff. I'm not Dana. Dana can describe a movie.
I don't know about that.
I cannot do that. So, I the way I feel is I confuse people more than anything when I'm talking about stuff like that. But watch it. If you've never seen it for yourself, go and watch it. I highly recommend it. It can be watched. Definitely it was a summer film for me, definitely, but I watched it all through the year. But I remember watching it during the summer on days that I would go out and play, and I'd come in and I'd watch the birds, and it would just make me feel good. Now, it's not necessarily a summer film, but it gives you that kind of cul-de-sac type, summer, cookout, barbecue type thing,
Yeah, I feel like it's a summer film because
Yeah,
isn't Tom Hanks's character Ray? Isn't he like on vacation from
yeah,
work and
he
his
is, yeah,
wife wants to go to the cabin or
yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
So that definitely feels like a summer movie to me.
It always felt that way to me, and, the story about, they tell this story about this soda jerk guy who murders his family in the sweltering heat, and everybody's buying the little like the pine
Yeah,
cone like trees and hanging them on their porch.
yeah,
And it was Skip, the guy that worked at the soda fountain. They say he was making lemon phosphates, and then he had his, at the soda fountain. And then he had his family down in his basement.
yeah,
So I always, I said, well, that's summery. So, but just I give it a watch because it's definitely one of my favorite films of all time. To me, now I know this might be controversial to a lot of people, but to me, it's my favorite Joe Dante film.
Oh,
Definitely.
I really think that's valid.
Mhm.
That because there's a lot of great Joe Dante films.
Yeah,
And you can always, or I can tell it's a Joe Dante film when I first start watching
yeah,
it because Joe Dante has a certain style
he
to
does. Yeah,
his films, um, that even though, Candace said that kind of cemented her love of creepy
it
thing.
did. Yeah,
Um, Joe Dante does that perfectly in his films. Even in something like The Howling, which has to do with werewolves,
hmm,
has to do with people getting eviscerated basically by these werewolves, there is still humor in The Howling, and that is Joe
yeah,
Dante's brand of humor, that
yeah.
even if it's primarily a horror film, he still sticks that humor in there.
Mhm. And
And
he also picked the best people to play the Klopeks. That brother Gordon or brother Theodore,
yeah,
he is really creepy. He's an old man. He's really creepy. And Henry Gibson,
I
um,
love Henry Gibson.
Henry Gibson definitely can be creepy, and he's really creepy in this. And Courtney Gaines,
Yeah.
he was. And when I met him, because there's a scene, it's one of my favorite scenes. Whenever you know Tom Hanks' character and Carrie Fisher's character, and um, Bruce Stern's character and his wife, they go into visit these Klopeks. They basically kind of invite themselves in, but anyway, they come bringing brownies. So when they go in there, the Klopeks, Courtney Gaines' character in particular, Hans
Hmm.
is trying to be a host to them, as creepy as he may be. But Bruce Stern's character, which I absolutely love, as Mr. Rumsfeld, Mark Rumsfeld. He is not nice. He's like straight to the point. Like I said, he's ex-military, so he's going around. He's like peeling at the wallpaper, looking at stuff. Just checking everything out. And there's this scene where he goes over to this table and there's some picture frames on it.
Hmm.
And he picks up this picture frame that's got this really pretty woman in it, and he looks at it and he's asks Hans if that's his girlfriend. And there's, Hans just kind of weirdly looks at him because he's really weird acting. He says, "No, it came with the frame." So whenever I met Courtney Gaines, and most people would just roll their eyes, say, "Oh my god, fangirl over that." But this film is so huge to me. Okay, so and especially that line. So when I met him, he actually had a picture of that scene, and when I picked it out, I said, "Oh yeah, this is the picture I want." I said, "This is one of my favorite scenes of all time." And he said, "Okay." Well, he said, "You want me to just sign it?" I said, "You can do whatever you want to." He said, "Well, do you want me to put it came with the frame?" And he did the accent. I
That
said,
was like that was like the time I met Bill Moseley, and I couldn't decide what I wanted him to sign. And he starts just doing all these lines from different
"Yeah,
films. And excuse me, this is from the movie, guys. Now,
yeah,
but he says, "How about lick my plate, you dog dick?" And I said,
yeah,
"That's the one." And Steve was like, "I can't believe you had Bill Moseley sign that on the." I said, "It's funny," and it was funny to hear him
yeah."
reading off these different lines.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's one of the most notable, quotes from that movie anyway. So, uh, but yeah, that was really fun meeting him. I remember I had an Andrew WK. I don't know if anybody knows who Andrew WK is, but um, I had an Andrew WK shirt on, and it had his face on it, and it was his like nose was real bloody, and he looked at it and he said, "Is that rah 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 music?" I said, "No." I said, "It's not really like that." He said, "Oh, it kind of looked like it was that rah 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 music. It's
Uh-huh.
like going rah rah rah, like that." It was fun. He was really nice to me. I would love to meet more people from the burbs, but yeah, definitely on my bucket list summer film, list. Like I said, it's highly unlikely that anybody watching has probably never seen it. But if you've not seen it, go and watch it.
Yeah, I would
Not
highly recommend.
everybody's seen the burbs, but maybe not.
That was one of my. I consider that one of my childhood films
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Um, I'm a little bit older than Candace, probably a lot older than Candace.
No, not very much older.
Won't wanna be honest about it, but that was still in my
Mhm,
wheelhouse of movies that I watched growing up, and I
yeah,
have like Candace, I have very fond movie or memories of that movie
yeah.
as
It's a
well.
very special film to me.
So, my food is on its way, but they aren't quite here yet, and yes, I am getting alcohol because it's Friday and I'm not working, and so I'm getting a little alcohol. So, when I step away, I'll have to um, show them my ID, of course. So, um, but I don't know if it's me causing the echo or not. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo of
Can
myself.
you hear me?
I hear you, but I don't hear an echo. But
Whenever you talk, do you hear echo coming?
I don't hear it now. I did hear it.
I
So
can
I
try
don't
turning my mic down.
I don't want Candace to turn it down so much that nobody can hear her.
Yeah, from yesterday with hearing those firecrackers and stuff, I don't know if I can hear you. I'm already having enough trouble trying to hear. But can you hear? Do you hear it now?
Okay, so no, I'm not hearing it now.
Okay.
So I think we're good.
If you do, just let me know.
Okay. So I'm gonna start talking about um, one of mine, but it looks like the Door Dasher will be here shortly. So I'm gonna keep an eye on that map because I've got to show my ID. I gotta let them scan my ID for that booze. But so the first movie I wanted to talk about was Meatballs um, with Bill Murray, and I absolutely adore Bill Murray. I ain't even gonna lie,
Yeah.
I love that guy. Um, I love that guy. Like me and Candace were talking about, we love Tom Hanks. Bill Murray is
Yeah.
just one of those guys that I love just about everything he's in. Um, but this is a summer camp movie. It does take place in the summer, but this is also a very Canadian movie. It was made by Canadian people. It has Canadian people in it. And I love the Canadians. I ain't gonna lie about that either. I love the Canadians. And something else about the Canadians is, if I can interject into horror just a just a little bit here, is that the Canadians were doing things with their horror films in the 80s, primarily in the early to mid 80s, that was blowing the Americans out of the water as far as slasher films and things like that. They were making great little horror films. Okay. So they also made great comedy films as well. And Meatballs is no exception to, to that rule. And so we have all these counselors, and Bill Murray plays the head counselor. And we have Jack Bloom or Blum, however you pronounce. I'm probably mispronouncing his name. Uh, who is one of the head or one of the counselors in training? They call them CITs, is what they call them. Keith Knight, who has sadly passed away several years ago, but he is in this. Um, and you will see other people from other Canadian films in this as well. This is also directed by Ivan Reitman, who, Candace, didn't Ivan Reitman pass away kind of recently, or am I thinking
I
wrong?
don't know.
I was thinking here recently Ivan Reitman had passed
Let me
away.
look.
I know Harold Ramis passed away, but I was thinking we lost Ivan Reitman too. But
If he is, I don't remember it.
okay.
If
Well,
Chris was in here, maybe he could tell. I don't know
Chris,
if he,
if you're still in here and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong on that one. But so I am going to step away because I think my dasher's just about here. If Candace can do me a big favor and keep y'all entertained, I'm going to take myself out of this for a second.
okay.
I'll be right back.
I didn't even realize if I did, I've forgotten. But Ivan Reitman did pass away in 2022. That's sad. Yeah, TJ, February 22. I I had to have known about it. I've just forgotten. Which is I'm not saying that's good on me. I should have remembered that. But I've actually never seen Meatballs. I know Chris likes Meatballs. The only one that I have seen is the one with Corey Feldman. I watched it a long time ago whenever I was really little. Um, let's see. I think that's the one that he's in. Hmm, Chris, are you in here? Which one is it that Corey Feldman's in Meatballs, right? Or am I getting that wrong too? I can't remember. Thought that he was. Maybe I am wrong. Yeah, Meatballs 4. I thought it was because there's a scene, if I'm remembering correctly, because I've only seen it one time and I was really little, probably, because this came out in 92. It's probably around the time it came out. Yeah, Meatballs 4. And I cannot remember. Is that the one where he's like dancing like Michael Jackson in like this big like auditorium or like a gym or something like that? I don't know. Or am I just having fever dreams? But I remember seeing this whenever I was really, really little. Uh, so I don't remember liking it either. So it is, yeah, I thought so. But that's the only one I've ever seen. I've never seen Meatballs. Everybody recommends it to me, but I've just never. It's one of those films that I've never sit down and watched. Which I believe I would like it. Um, most definitely, but I've never seen it. But speaking of summer films and stuff like that, I don't know if anybody else is like this, but I think it kind of goes in with like the Christmas in July type thing. I'm huge on Christmas. Like that's my favorite holiday. You would think Halloween is my favorite holiday, but Christmas is definitely my favorite holiday. Does anybody else like to watch Christmas films in July? Is that just me? I love watching like Home Alone, like the Home Alone films or the first two. And there's other like Ernest Saves Christmas. I love watching that kind of thing during the July or summer break. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Other people might be thinking you're crazy, but um, I love Christmas. I love Christmas songs. I sing Christmas songs a lot. People think I'm went wacky, but I mean, hey, you like what you like. Mick Foley, the wrestler, if you're into that kind of thing, he's really into Christmas, into Santa. So he has like all this like Christmas stuff out 24/7. He don't ever put it up. Plays Santa. He was in a documentary about it. I can't remember what it was called, but it had all these like working Santas, and it kind of went about like showed how they um, prepared to be Santa and what they had to go through to be Santa. And they just kind of live life as Santa. And I just always was fascinated by that. I said, that's so neat. But, like I said, I love Christmas, so I like that kind of thing. But um, I don't know. Like I said, that could just be me. But I'm sure other people like Christmas like me. But Halloween films, I like watching Halloween films all year long. I don't care what kind of holiday it is, if it's, or season, if it's spring or, Halloween is just a life, you know, for me and Chris at this point. We collect everything that we can get, like pumpkins and spooky stuff and all that good stuff. So, watching, Halloween type films that revolve around the actual holiday. You can watch that anytime. Watch that during Christmas. So who cares? But I don't know. I guess growing up, and Dana may talk about some of these. I wasn't planning on talking about um, any of the like um, Friday the 13th films or anything like that. But those were a huge part of my growing up. The Friday the 13th films. That's a no brainer. Thinking about like summer movies, summer horror films. That's as summer as you can get. Going to summer camp. Uh, but there's some more that I used to watch too. Um, that I wasn't going to talk about or anything like that. Now, uh, there was this one movie I used to watch. I cannot remember what it was called though. It was like a summer camp movie. It wasn't a horror movie. It was a like for kids, like a kids type movie. But it was um like this boy goes away to summer camp, and remember him having like bow and arrows. I mean, that's very vague, but it was a movie I used to watch. I remember we went to the movies and watched it, whatever it was, but I can't remember what it's called now. Um, I'm gonna look that up when I get off of here because that's gonna kill me. It's like I can't remember if it was Jonathan Taylor Thomas that was in it, or if it was Macaulay Culkin. I can't heavyweight. No, I don't think it was heavyweights. It wasn't heavyweights. No, it was either Jonathan Taylor Thomas or Macaulay Culkin. I remember them having like a bow and arrow and there was like shooting stuff. I think it was summer camp they were at. It was something like that, but I cannot remember what it was called. But um, I actually went to summer camp one time and it was like one of the worst things I ever went through. It was, uh, needless to say, probably the worst week ever. I didn't know anybody. I really wanted to go to the summer camp, and my friend was supposed to go with me. And summer camp you have to pay for. Well, some summer camps you might get in free, but this was one that you had to pay for. And my mom and dad, you know, paid a pretty good price for me to go to the summer camp. And I didn't want to bail out on them, because they had already paid for it. And my friend was supposed to go too. Well, I show up to the pickup location where they're going to take it, and she's nowhere to be found. So these kids are kids that's not even from my school. I don't know who they are. They're like from all over because apparently this bus had been going to these different counties picking up these kids that I don't even know. And everybody there like had a friend. You could tell that they had friends, and I was just sitting there by myself. And it's like, okay, maybe I can make friends. Yeah, I was, thinking that me, the introvert that I am, and definitely was back then. I was very bashful back then and very introverted, a lot worse than what I am now. I'm not really, bashful or anything like that anymore, but I'm still kind of introverted. But um, went to summer camp when it got there. It's a really cool place. It was this, typical summer camp by the lake. And tell them about the time I went to summer camp, Dana.
Oh, cool.
Uh,
Continue. I'd
it,
love to hear that.
it was the worst week of my life. It was awful. But I got there and it looked really awesome. I mean, they had like all these like cabins. It was like something that you'd see out of a movie, a summer camp movie. So here I am, little friendless Candice, just looking around, trying to find somebody that was like a loner like me that I could clasp it onto, but I couldn't find anybody. And I was just so bashful that I never talked to anybody the whole time I was there. I ran out of money halfway through because they had like this cantina place that you would go down there, and I started getting dehydrated. And I remember because it was so hot there, and I didn't have money for um, like soda or the water, whatever you got to get. So I'd only eat and drink when we went to the cafeteria and ate and stuff like that. So I was starting to get really dehydrated, and I remember like just kind of breaking off. And this place was awesome. They had this like big lake where you can jump in like on these big like blow up things out in the middle of the water and but I was afraid of the water, so I didn't want to do anything like that. I could swim. I'm trained to swim. I went to a school that gave you lessons to swim. Our school actually had a swimming pool. So kids learned how to swim there. But I was just afraid of the water and I didn't want to do anything like that. They had like this clay pigeon place where you shot these clay pigeons. You got to ride horses, got to fish, got to go out on kayaks. And it was a really cool place. And I think it would have been better if I had friends. But it was just really scary. And I remember always thinking Jason was going to come and kill me. And they was telling ghost stories and about like how it was haunted there. And I remember looking out the window when I was trying to sleep in my sleeping bag in this bunk and just like I could feel like, some madman looking at, just looking through the woods at me. And it was just really scary. And like I said, I was getting dehydrated and to the point to where I was starting to feel sick, like if you're dehydrated, you start to feel really sick, you can start hallucinating, all kinds of stuff. And I remember breaking off kind of like from the group because I was just getting desperate. I didn't want to call my mom and them. I was just really shy. I didn't want to tell anybody, hey, I'm getting sick or anything like that. I actually broke off from the group to, kind of go, it's just pass out somewhere. I didn't know what was going to happen. When I found this water fountain, and I remember drinking like a camel whenever I got to that water fountain. And I'd go there every day. And then somebody told me I was drinking out of that water fountain, and it probably wasn't the truth. They said, you're drinking lake water, right? And back then, you don't think about purification and stuff like that. So I wouldn't touch it anymore. I thought that I was drinking lake water. I didn't want to do that. So that's gross. And yeah, it was just really, it was an unusual time. That was right around the time whenever Will Smith's Wild Wild West was out and that song had taken over the world.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I bought into it. I loved it too. So I went and bought the soundtrack on cassette tape. But these girls, we was having like this talent show on the last day that we were there, the last night that we were there, and this big talent show. And these girls like had stuffed pillows in like the back of their pants and the front of their shirts, and they was down there like acting like they was riding the ponies, and it was really odd.
Yeah, it sounds odd.
It was odd, and I remember going home, and my mom was like, "How did you like it?" And I didn't want to disappoint her.
Yeah.
Because she had spent all this money to send me there. I said, "Oh, I loved it. It was the best week of my life." But inside I was just like, "Hallelujah." I was back home, that was just the best thing. I remember going and drinking Kool-Aid that my mom had made, fresh Kool-Aid.
That
I
was
think
like
it
the
was like,
best Kool-Aid ever.
oh my God. It was like, I remember taking a drink of that. It was grape Kool-Aid. And I just remember feeling so great that this was the best thing ever. I was just expecting like the Kool-Aid man to just like break through my mom's kitchen wall. That's how great it was. But that was my experience of summer camp, and I never want to go back. And I'm glad that I'm grown up and don't have to. So There you go.
So Candace, was that 4-H camp, or was it a church camp, or was it just regular garden
It
variety?
regular bona fide summer camp.
Because
Yeah.
Steve told me about, and I can't remember if it was 4-H camp
Mm,
or it was like church camp or what it
yeah.
was. But he said that he was there for like a day or something, and he got in contact with his mom, said, "Please come pick me up. I don't want to be here."
I felt like it, but, it was like 3 hours away from home,
Yeah.
and like I said, my parents, I wasn't rich or anything like that. My mom and dad really, they could have probably used the money that they spent. It was expensive. It wasn't cheap, especially back then. It was not cheap to go there, but they worked really hard and got the money and sent me, and I did not want to. And they spent all this money on like a new sleeping bag and, just all this stuff going there. And I was really mad at my friend for bailing on me.
Oh,
And I remember the next year of school going back when I seen her again, and I told her, I said, "What happened to you at summer camp?"
mhm.
I said, "Could you, and I would have understood if her parents, couldn't afford it and stuff, but I thought she had paid." And she's like, "Oh, I just changed my mind. Didn't want to go." I was so mad. I was like, "You left me high and dry." It probably would have been really fun if I had somebody, but I
Yeah.
was so scared. I
So
wasn't somebody to stay home from my parents a lot either, so maybe that has something to do with it.
my story about summer camp, I'll tell that real quick because there's not a whole lot to tell. But back when I was a kid, they had 4-H camp,
Yeah.
and they would go to Dawson Springs, Kentucky for 4-H camp every year when I was a kid. And I wanted to go every year. I would beg mom and dad, "Please, can I go? Can I go? We're going to Dawson Springs again. I want to go. I think it'd be fun." And God bless my mother. She had the my mom knows me better than anybody on this planet. I think my mom knows me better than Steve does. Steve's probably the second one, but my mom, she's got mom radar. She knows her kids, okay? And every time I would bring up 4-H camp, she would say, "Dana, I don't think you should go, hun, because I'm afraid that you're gonna get homesick." She said, "Remember when you go to your cousin Heather's for a week in the summer? You know how you invariably get homesick and want you and Heather start fighting and getting on each other's nerves, and you're ready to come home." She
Yeah.
said, "What happens if you get to 4-H camp and you want to come home? Me and your dad can't get you real quickly, and I just don't want you to be miserable, right?" So that's my story about camp. I never went, but if you guys and gals in the chat have summer camp stories you want to share, feel free to share them. Candace actually had one because she actually went.
I wish I hadn't,
Mm.
to be honest with you. That
But
was an odd time for my for me.
I guess now that I've got my booze and my chili and my watermelon lemonade, I will continue with meatballs here. And thank you, Candace, for keeping everybody engaged while I was away.
Oh, that's okay. I was letting them know that I had never seen Meatballs.
Oh,
I've
wow.
never seen it before, and I've seen the 4th one with Corey Feldman when I
Mhm.
was really little, probably when it first come out. I remember not liking it, but I've been told that I would like Meatballs,
Oh, you would
and I think
definitely
I
like
would.
the original
Yeah,
meatballs. Now,
Chris likes it.
I'm telling you though, Candace, the sequels, even part 4, which part 4 I like pretty well, but I
Mm,
haven't seen it for years. And I like Corey Feldman's character, but Meatballs, the original Meatballs, is more innocent.
yeah,
I mean, they have guys, lusting after girls and stuff like that, but I don't recall there being any nudity in this
yeah,
film. I don't recall there being any sex in this film. It might have been alluded to,
yes,
but it was not actually shown. It's just a fun, in my opinion, family friendly type of film. And you've got like I said, you got Bill Murray who plays a head counselor, Trooper Harrison, and you also have Harvey Atkin or Aitken, however you pronounce that, who is a fellow Canadian of these other people too. Harvey Aitken or Atkin has been in a lot of these Canadian films over the years. Christine DeBelle, I'm not sure if Christine DeBelle is Canadian or not, but she was in a lot of films I like, including I Want to Hold Your Hand, which is that
Yeah.
Beatles based film. She is in it playing I'm guessing you would call her an
Group.
escort or
Yeah, but like
something
a
like
not really a
that.
groupie, but something like that, like is she the one that falls down at the
No,
drum?
she's actually a secondary character in I Want to
Mm,
Hold Your Hand. She's not one of the prime group of young people.
okay.
She's an escort who I think she wants to go see the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and the way
Yeah.
she's gonna try to make money for tickets is to be an escort to this other
Oh,
Beatles
okay.
guy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
it
know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So, but I like Christine DeBelle. She's been
Mm.
in some of those cheerleader movies that my husband likes so well. I know people have kidded Steve about that over the years. Um, Sarah Torgov is also in this. Sarah Torgov was also in a horror film called American Gothic. If any of
Yeah.
y'all have seen American Gothic. Um, Now there was a television show called American Gothic, but this is actually the film American Gothic. So you have Bill Murray playing the head counselor. You have Harvey Atkin playing like the camp owner or camp director, whatever you want to call it. Um, oh, Chris, I didn't even know you had the cheerleader films in the box set. You sold it.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
had it.
I think Steve may have grown out of that a little bit, but at one time he was really into those. Um, but so Harvey Atkin is like the head of the entire camp, and then Bill Murray and oh, what's her name? Kate Lynch, who is another fellow Canadian as well. She is one of the head counselors along with Bill Murray's character. And Bill Murray wants to, I'm sorry to be so crude, but he wants to get in Kate Lynch's pants the whole movie. He tries to get with her, tries to get with her, tries to get with her, and she's like, Tripper, I don't want anything to do with you on that level. I mean, mostly the whole movie she's like that. Um, but Tripper is the head counselor that you would always love to have at a summer camp. He's the guy that doesn't follow the rules. He's the guy that lets you get away with crap. He's the guy that tells the creepy stories at the campfire. In fact, the Hook story is told around the campfire, and Tripper is the one that mentions it. You have all these goofball antics. Like I said, you have the guys trying to get with the girls. These CITs, they got one thing on their mind and one thing only, as many young people do. Probably all young people do at some point in time in their life.
Yeah.
They also have the rival camp, um, and they have all these competitions with the rival camp. And the rival camp is basically, if anybody remembers the film Caddyshack, you
Mhm.
had the snobs versus the slobs, as they said. So it's kind of the same thing in Meatballs, that you have the camp full of the people that you love, the funny, the madcap, the wacky people, and then you have the snobs over at the other camp across the lake, right? So they're always competing with the guys and gals over on the other side of the lake. But we all know, I know that if I was going to camp, I want to go to the camp where Tripper was the head counselor. That would be the fun camp, right? So there's all kinds of goofy stuff that happens. These competitions happen, all culminating in one big, like, Olympic style competition with that other camp. And so we have the introduction to the actor Chris Makepeace, which Chris Makepeace, the one other thing I'm remembering him in was the movie Vamp. So if you've seen Vamp with Robert Russler in it as well, Chris Makepeace is one of those group of guys in Vamp. Candice, have you seen Vamp?
Yeah, with,
Okay.
what's her name? I love Grace Slick not Grace Slick, but,
Um,
Grace Jones.
mhm.
Yeah, I love Grace Jones.
Very good vampire movie if you
Yeah, it is. She was
have.
really cool in that too.
Mhm. But Chris Makepeace was in this, and he was also in a film with Tom Hanks, um, Mazes and Monsters. I don't know how many of y'all have seen Mazes and Monsters, but it was made during that whole Dungeons and Dragons
Yeah,
is
I remember you
all
telling me. I had never heard of that before, and I remember you telling me about that,
mm,
a while back, and I was like, "Really? I'd never heard of it."
yeah. I found it in the $5 bin at Walmart years and years ago. And I was like, "Oh, here's a Tom Hanks movie I ain't seen," you know? So, but Chris Makepeace is Rudy, and he's this, Candace was talking about being shy and introverted when she
Oh,
went
yeah.
to summer camp. Well, Rudy is shy and introverted. He doesn't really want to go to camp, but his dad is, I think his dad might be some kind of traveling salesman where he has to travel all over, and he's a single father, and he doesn't want to leave Rudy, in the care of, other people or anything like that. So he does the next best thing. He sends him to summer camp. But Rudy's not happy. Rudy's shy. He's introverted. The other kids pick on him in the cabin he's assigned to. He's not good at sports, and when he tries to play sports, the other kids make fun of him. How could you be so stupid? And so there's one scene where, and I love the connection between Tripper and Rudy in this movie, because Tripper picks out Rudy when they first get to camp. Rudy's sitting there on his suitcase, and he's looking down, and he's just looking like the saddest person in the whole world. And Tripper picks up on that, and he goes over to him, and he makes friends with him. And he said, "Come on, let's get you a cocktail," and stuff like that. He's just, trying to make him feel like he's a part of things. So Rudy runs away after they make fun of him during a soccer game, and he goes to the bus station. How he makes his way to the bus station from the camp, I don't know. Movie logic, but he does. And he's sitting in the Greyhound bus station, and there's a restaurant, a little diner in the Greyhound bus station. And so Rudy's sitting there sipping on a milkshake, and Tripper comes in the door, and he zeroes right in on Rudy. He walks over to him, and they start talking, and Rudy tells him what happened. Those guys hate me. All the guys in my cabin hate me. I'm not good at sports. I don't fit in. So I'm running away. And so Tripper acts like, "Hey, maybe I'll run away with you," and tries to, get this conversation started, and really trying to talk Rudy out of, he's not going to let this kid get on a Greyhound and try to go back home. That much is obvious. So he he asked Rudy, he said, "So basically, what did these guys do to you?" And then Tripper says, "They did what? Well, let me at him." He pulls out a Swiss Army knife. He says, "I'll use this corkscrew and I'll stab him right in the throat." And he goes to this whole weird, wacky Bill Murray type of thing. And he says, "Listen," he finally tells Rudy, he says, "Listen, if you have trouble, come to me. We'll talk it over. We'll work it out, okay?" And so he gets Rudy to come back to camp, and he also tells him, he said, "If you make one good friend a summer at camp, that's all you need. And if you need a friend, I'll be your friend." And I was just like, this is a dream come true for any kid that's
Yeah.
having trouble. It's to have, it doesn't matter if it's an adult or another kid. Somebody is reaching out to you and saying, "Hey, I know
Yeah.
how you feel. I'm here for you." And that's all anybody needs. So even though this was a madcap, wacky summer camp comedy film, it has heart too.
Yeah.
I think that that's another reason why it's one of my favorites. Not just a summer camp or summer based movie, but just a great movie in general.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to go into each and every antic that takes place in this movie. I think y'all get the gist of what this movie is and what is at its core. And what's at its core for me is the relationship between Tripper and
Yeah.
Rudy in the film. So, if you have not seen Meatballs, I highly, highly recommend this. Don't go out and buy it, of course. I always say watch a for free version of it. If you can find a for free version, definitely do that. Um, and it's described too on the back of the DVD that I have. Meatballs is an Animal House Goes to Summer Camp comedy classic. And I would agree with that, although there's not nudity like that's in Animal House. I mean,
Yeah.
you get to see Tim Matheson's ass in Animal House, and you get to see buttons in Animal House. It's a little bit toned down from Animal House, but it's kind of the same premise though as well. Only it takes place at a summer camp. But yeah, definitely check out Meatballs if you haven't seen it. And I feel like I blabbed and blabbed and
Oh, talk as long as you want, Dana. You describe things a lot better than I do.
Chris says that you watched Mazes and Monsters with him when y'all were dating.
I seen that he said that, but I don't ever remember. I'm looking it up just to see if I recognize it.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that we did watch it. It might have been one of those ones that I just wasn't paying attention to. If he says it, then we probably did. I've just, my memory, Dana. I can't remember
I
half the thing I
forget
do.
things too, Candace. I,
I
I
can't remember half the things that I've done in my life. Like even like when it comes down to meeting celebrities or concerts, I've seen so many and met so many people. I can't remember half of them. People like I remember like my brother was saying I seen a band. And I was like, oh, I never seen them. Like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you seen. I remember that I've seen them. So there that goes. You got
but
to take me with a grain of salt.
after I talked and talked about this one, I'm going to turn it back over to Candace to talk about another one of hers.
Okay, well, first of all, I was wanting to say, whenever you'd stepped away, I had like thought about this because I was thinking about like summer camp movies or not really summer camp movies, just like summer movies that I remember as a kid. And there was one I could not think of what it was. I knew that it was either Jonathan Taylor Thomas or Macaulay Culkin that played in this movie. And I remember them being like having like bows and arrows and had like feather in their hair or something like that. And it was a movie I remember going to the movies and watching. I can't remember if my school took me to see it or if it was just one
Was
because
was Bob Saget on this by any chance?
no, and I couldn't think of who it was or what the movie was, but I found out what it was. It's actually Chevy Chase,
Hmm.
and it's Man of the House from 1995.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's got George Wendt and Farrah Fawcett, and it actually doesn't because I thought it was like a kid went to like Jonathan Taylor Thomas had went to summer camp, but it wasn't because I remember Chevy Chase going there, but it was actually a YMCA father and son program that they had went to, and yeah, I remember that movie. I can't remember. I don't know what it doesn't say like what if it's like PG or anything like that, but if it was G, then my school, I might have went with my school because sometimes my school took us. If not, if it's anything past a G, then I had to go like with my mom or whatever because we went to the movies all the time. Like I went to the movies like several times a week growing up. Like we loved the movies. But I remember I've not seen that since I was a kid. I actually would like to watch that again, but it's called Man of the House. And then I was thinking, well, because I knew that it was either Jonathan Taylor Thomas or who was a big heartthrob back then. And I remember getting the Tiger Bait magazines and with him in it. But I was thinking it's either Jonathan Taylor Thomas or JTT, as we used to call him back then, or Macaulay Culkin. And I'd actually looked it up. Macaulay Culkin is in one that I remember when I was a kid too, and I went to the movies and watched it as well. I forget what. Let me see. What was it? But I know that he was in one too. It wasn't a summer camp movie, but it was like some weird like type of movie like that Man of the House. It was Getting Even with Dad, and it
Yeah,
had
let's just put that in.
with Ted Danson. I remember that one as well, and I went to the movies and watched that one too. I don't even remember what that one was about either, but I remember liking them when I seen them. But I've not seen those since I was a kid, so um, I need to maybe watch those tonight or something. Give me something to watch. Or watch Meatballs. That's probably better than any of those
I've
movies.
got a ton of stuff that I'm wanting to rewatch. I ended up watching one of them I'm going to talk about next. Finished it up again last night.
Well, the next stuff that I want to talk about isn't really a movie, but a collective of films by a certain actor, and that's Jim Carrey films. I mean, I remember when I think of these movies, I think of summer. I think of how awesome summer was going and watching most of these movies. I can't remember really exactly what time or what time of year it was when most of these movies come out, but I remember that they were really big movies for me to watch during the summer. I went to the movies and watched um ones I'm going to talk about. I think every one of them. I went to the movies and watched. But that except Earth Girls Are Easy. I didn't go to the movies and watch that one, but I love, love, love Earth Girls Are Easy. It
I
came out
do
in
too.
'89. I was just a few years old when it came out. It came out in '89. It's got Gina Davis and a very, very, very attractive Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum can be sexy.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna
Well,
lie about that.
this is the film. If you want to, I mean, he always is, but that's really, really good looking in this one. And it had Damon Wayans or Wayans, however you say his name. I always call it Wayans, but that's like that ain't how you pronounce it. It's Wayans. So Damon Wayans, um, Julie Brown, and Jim Carrey. And I absolutely love Earth Girls Are Easy. If you've never seen it, it's about these three aliens crash in the back of yard of Gina Davis's character in her swimming pool. Like she's sitting, you see a very sexy Gina Davis laying out in a
Oh yeah.
bikini clad Gina Davis. Um, and the ship looks huge, but in her pool, it's not. And it's got a really funny scene where um, where Michael McCann, um, Lenny from Lenny and Squiggy and from Laverne and Shirley. He comes there. He's Woody. He's this guy. He's like the pool guy, and he thinks it's a big old like a what do you call it, like a surfboard or whatever.
Yeah.
It's really funny because she's like lying and saying that it's something from her pool. But when they show the aliens, I think Jeff Goldblum is blue. Um, I think Damon Wayans is he red? No, Jim Carrey's red, right? And
Hey,
then Damon Wayans is yellow, I think.
I need to rewatch it again.
I think that, but they're really furry and they're different
Yeah.
colors, like red, green, and or red, yellow, and blue.
Mhm.
And she takes them down to her friend, which is Julie Brown. She works in the salon, and she's like, "What can you do with them?" She said, "Well, just hold on, I can take care of this." And she goes and shaves them down or something. Gives them makeovers, and they each come out, and then at the end, because Jim Curry comes out, and he's like really like goofy looking, and And they have all these weird names. And Damon Wayans comes out, and he's like kind of cool looking. But whenever um, Jeff Goldblum's character comes out, he's really, really attractive, and Gina Davis's character is really attracted to him. So um, it just goes on from there. It's really funny. I love the movie. It's like one of my all time favorite, like feel good films. When you want to feel good, just like don't want to, think about what you're going to watch. Just throw that on, and you're going to love it. That's the way I feel about that film. But um, a lot of Jim Carrey films were like that for me. I went to the movies and watched them, like Ace Ventura, Peg Detective. And that's the one I didn't go to the movies and watch. I actually rented it when it come out. And I remember, because that came out in 94, so I was like 8 years old. And I remember renting it, and we went down to my grandma and grandpa's house, my mom's parents, and we started watching it. And when the wee dee dee scene came on, I remember my grandpa, he got mad. He was like,
Oh,
'cause I think it embarrassed him because my grandpa was really like backwards, and he's like, "They putting this in kids' films," He thought it was a kids' film. It wasn't a kids' film. Well,
oh,
it kind of was, but it wasn't. But I remember it embarrassed him. I know it didn't. It embarrassed me because I was just 8, and I knew, I was like, "This is not something I'm supposed to be seeing." But we went to the movies and watched, the second one, When
mhm,
Nature Calls, and I absolutely love When Nature Calls. I'm sure everybody's seen Ace Ventura films. The first one, he's the pet detective. He goes,
mhm,
this snowflake, this dolphin goes missing from the Miami Dolphins like mascot, and he's been fish snapped and or porpoise snapped, whatever you want to call it, and it just goes this life of crime. These people are just really crooked within this law system, and
mhm.
I'm sure you've seen it. Just go watch it. But
Yep.
then when it goes to When Nature Calls, that came out in '95. A year later, uh, that one's really funny. I love it. There's like, cause he goes, where was it he went to? I can't remember. It was somewhere over. Um, I forget where he goes to, but it's a country over in like around Asia or somewhere. Can you remember where he goes to, Dana? It's not
Not
Kenya or anything anywhere like that,
maybe
is it?
Chris does. Chris did say that Jim Carrey did Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber all the same year,
He goes to
1994.
Africa.
Mm,
I knew it was somewhere like that, but couldn't remember where he went. But anyway, he goes over there looking for this bat, like this rare bat, and it's just really funny. They go to this tribe, these people, and like it's just really funny. I don't want to repeat some of the jokes, but it gets really
uh,
it's really funny. Like the bumblebee tuna and all that good stuff. So that was a really feel good film that I loved.
mm,
I don't know if which one I like better. I think I might like the second one better. But then you have The Mask. I went to the movies and watched it. It came out in '94. Jim Carrey was really hot around like '94 to like '96 or '7. Like he was really, really hot, just throwing out the films, and the films are really good. You got The Mask, which I absolutely love that film. I can quote that film like backwards and forwards when we watch it. We just watched it not long ago, and I know I was annoying Chris by just quoting everything. If you've not seen The Mask, he basically finds this mask that has this, this god that's inside of this mask, and when he puts it up to his face, it kind of sucks onto him, and it changes these people into kind of what their personality is. Jim
mm,
Carrey loves cartoons. His character, loves cartoons, and he's just really goofy and like lighthearted. So his character becomes like this cartoon type, over the top mad person, just a madman. And he's going around wreaking havoc, stuff that Stanley Ipkiss, his character, would not do in real life. It might be stuff that he's thinking about doing, but he would never do those kind of things. So yeah, there's a lot of things. There's this like scene where because he lets everybody walk all over him. That's the thing. He works in this bank and he lets everybody just walk all over him, just get by with things that they shouldn't be doing. And he goes and he's got his car in the repair at this car shop, and they're really, really crooked, and they're really getting him over on, his car. He took it in not just like for an oil change, but they got all this stuff that's wrong with it now, which really didn't need to happen, but it happens. And whenever he becomes the mask, he shows up to this shop late at night. He's got these two big tailpipes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a really crude humor, but I still laugh at it after all these years. But he goes, hold on to your lug nuts. It's time for an overhaul. Well, basically, the next day it shows where he put the tailpipes, okay? And that's
Mm-hmm.
probably what Stanley was probably thinking whenever these two crooked mechanics were, saying, "Hey, you got all this stuff wrong with your car," and they're basically, milking him for his money. Probably said, "Well, take my tailpipe and stick it up your tailpipe." So that's basically what he did. So I love that film. I think it's hilarious. It's really cheesy, but I love it. And it's one of those films, like I said, that I can quote a lot. And then like Batman Forever, he played the Riddler that came out 95. That was really a huge memory for me because McDonald's back then, that's when they used to get all these promotion stuff where they would give like the promotional glasses and promotional meals and all that good stuff. So they really took it and ran with Batman Forever. So Batman Forever was everyone. We still have the glasses from McDonald's, the Batman Forever glasses, and we use them all the time. So I really loved his role. A lot of people maybe don't like him as the Riddler, but I loved him as the Riddler.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Cable Guy. I mean, who doesn't like the Cable Guy? That movie is hilarious. If you've never seen the Cable Guy, he's this guy who is a cable guy. I guess he's not really, but he's obsessed with.
Doesn't he give Matthew Broderick's character like free cable, and then he
Yeah,
won't stay out of his
yeah.
life?
And he's like he had really, it's not really funny the way he became the way he was because he had trauma as a kid. And he was just kind of sitting in front of the TV, and the TV basically raised him. My Three Sons and I Love Lucy, all those old shows and stuff like that. And so he really struggled, I guess, and just he was trying to find somebody to cling on to, and he's got this history of doing that. So just watch the Cable Guy. It's really funny. Jack Black, he's a character in it, and
And it has a little bit of. I feel like it has a darker
it
edge.
does.
You know,
It's a darker humor, a darker meaning behind it. It's comedy, but it's one of those dark comedies,
mhm.
and I think Jim Carrey really pulls that off. I really like that movie. I always loved Cable Guy. Went to movies and watched it and loved it. And another one I watched in the movies was Liar Liar. That came out a year later, 97. Liar Liar is hilarious. I love Liar Liar. Carrie, what's his name? Carrie Ewells? Is that his name?
Oh yeah,
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 he's in it.
exactly. Mhm.
I love it. He's got this kid, he's this lawyer, and he's really good at his job. If you've never seen it, and he's got this little boy, Max, calls him Maximilian, and actually, funny story. And I know this is getting, and I'll try to hurry up, Dana.
Oh, it's fine.
But me and Chris, whenever I really met Chris, because I knew him, because spoiler alert, me and Chris met online. I know, yeah, okay.
Well, technically, I met Steve online.
Yeah, I met him online, but I knew him. I knew he was real because I knew people who knew him personally. So I knew he wasn't fake or anything like that. But I went to see Green Day in Washington D.C. My dad took me to see Green Day, and I had taken this picture with this shirt on that I had made. A Green Day shirt, and I had like my hand like in a claw. It looked really stupid looking back on it. Now I look at that picture, I'm like, but that's the picture that kind of brought me and Chris together. And one of the things that we said to each other, we were going back saying like, it's really cheesy now looking back on it, but hey, we were young, we were flirting.
Mhm.
And he was like, "It's the claw," like from Toy Story, and I said, "Yeah," or like the claw, like from Liar Liar, because there's a scene where there's this thing that Jim Carrey's character does with his son, because even though he is like a big hotshot lawyer and stuff, he loves his child. He loves him more than anything, but he always is breaking promises to him, not meaning to do it. He's just really wrapped up in his job as a lawyer. So he's missing ball games, he's missing, birthdays. And, it's really letting Max down. He feels really sad because his dad is not there when he should be. And there's tension between him and his wife. They're separated or divorced, maybe. I can't remember if they're separated or divorced. But she has a new, person in her life, which is Carrie Ewell's character. And when Jim Carrey comes and he sees Max, he does this thing where he goes the claw, and he acts like he's going to, get him with his claw. So that's what I was referencing on that picture whenever me and Chris was first started dating and stuff. But yeah, it's just really funny because Max he blows out his candles and he makes a wish. A simple wish that his dad could never lie again. Wouldn't lie to him. I think just for a day. I think is what it was. Was it? I think it was a day. I don't think it was for like forever. I think it was just he couldn't lie for like a day.
Right.
A day or so. I can't remember. But anyway, you just gotta watch it. It's really because he cannot lie and he's like telling the truth to everybody. And
That puts him in a lot of trouble.
gets him in a lot of trouble, especially when he's a lawyer and he's got Tiffany, not Tiffany, because that's her character in Chucky, Bride of Chucky, but Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah.
She's in it. And she's like this really horrible parent. And she's trying to get custody and take her really great husband to because he really loves his kids and stuff. She's been having an affair and stuff. So he can't lie to win the case for her. So it's really funny. He gets him in a lot of trouble. And there's a scene where he beats himself up in the bathroom, and then he can't lie about who did it. He did it himself, And he's trying to lie to the pen, and it's like he's trying to say that the pen is black or red or whatever, and but he can't. He can't even lie about the color of the pen, and he ends up getting all over him and stuff. That's really funny, and also it's like Dana said about Meatballs. It has that message in it, that's really, it kind of touches your heart. But I love Liar Liar. That was a great one. Can't forget Dumb and Dumber. I mean, that's
I went to the movies and saw Dumb and Dumber.
I went to the movies and watched it too, and I love it. It's Chris's favorite comedy of all time. He loves Dumb and Dumber. We actually just watched it not too long ago. I mean, to me, that's the height of Jim Carrey. I mean, Jim Carrey, he just can be anybody. And I think one of mine, Chris's favorite part about Dumb and Dumber, which came out in '94 as well, with the mask and Ace Ventura. Excuse me, with Ace Ventura. There's a scene, and it might be a little weird to some people. I mean, it is, and it's you kind of feel bad for laughing about it. But there's a scene where, they're, Petey, Harry's, because it's Lloyd Christmas is Jim Carrey's character. And then there's Harry, which is Jeff Daniels' character. And they have this bird, and it gets killed. And he's like, Petey, his head fell off. His head fell off. And you'll find out if you watch the movie why his head fell off. Or fell off. It was torn off, whatever. But they're trying to go hunt down this woman. So there's a scene where, Lloyd gets in the car because they're really dumb. They are really dumb. And he's got this like chips and he's eating it and he says, he's made some money. He said, well, what'd you, he sold some stuff to the blind kid that lived in the building. And he said, well, what'd you sell him? He said, well, some baseball cards, a few marbles. And then he like kind of under his breath says, Petey. He says, Petey, it didn't have a head. His head was torn. He said, well, I took care of it. And then it shows that little boy stroking that bird and his head's been taped back on. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, I do. Now that you bring it up, I remember it totally.
It's a messed up scene, but I remember when I first seen that because whenever he's talking about what he sold that little boy, he's talking about marbles. And I always thought that it was a marble that had stuck and taped onto that bird's head or body, but it's actually the bird's head that he taped back on. I noticed that as I got older, but as a kid, I thought it was a marble that he stuck on there. I was like, that's so messed up. That's very messed up. But I love that. And, he's got some more films I remember watching, as a kid too. And like The Truman Show. I love that. The Majestic. I remember going and watching on New Year's Eve. It was the last showing of it that day. 1999. The Man on the Moon or Man on the Moon.
Oh,
he portrays Andy Kaufman. I was huge and still am just a huge Andy Kaufman fan. I love Andy Kaufman. Love Taxi, Latka, so to see Jim Carrey playing wonderfully,
Yes, he did.
Andy Kaufman, that was just amazing to me. And it was right during, an uncertain time, 1999. The next day we didn't know if we was going to wake up and it be the end of the world, or
Mhm.
if all the computers had just crashed, as the Y2K stuff. And so I remember going and watching that movie, and it was kind of bittersweet because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, when I go to sleep tonight. Am I going to wake up? Something's going to be different about the world, which gladly didn't come true. But yeah, when I think of summer and like growing up in the 90s and stuff, Jim Carrey films are really, really, really prominent,
Mhm.
to me, and I'm sure to a lot of other people that grew up in the 90s and stuff. Because as a kid, that stuff, getting to be a kid while that stuff was coming out, was really special. It was fun. It was. So I know that wasn't a movie, just like one movie.
Yeah, but
Um,
that was good though. You kind of encapsulated all of those movies.
there was just so many I could not like. I couldn't pick one. I was like, I love them all. Like that was just a huge part of my growing up,
Mhm.
especially like in the summer. Going to the movies and getting to see these things. Just I love them all. I love Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is a great actor, I think.
Mhm.
But I've talked enough and blabbed enough about all these films.
Oh no, Chris would want to know who doesn't like Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
I love him as a Riddler. I thought that was amazing.
I don't know. Uh, well, I will move on, I guess, to the next one I've got. This is the one that I just finished rewatching last night. I've been trying for the last few nights and kept falling asleep. Not because this is a boring movie. I love this movie. And this was a movie I think I discovered by accident when my family got satellite. We couldn't have cable out in the boonies where my parents live at. So we ended up getting us a little satellite dish,
Yeah.
not one of the great big ones, but one of the smaller ones. And I think that is where I discovered this little gem, Indian Summer. Sorry for the glare on there. This was written and directed by Mike Bender, who I believe is a childhood friend of Sam Raimi's and all those other guys. And Sam Raimi is indeed uh, in this movie as the guy that I guess he's basically the caretaker of this camp. He's the guy that goes and picks up the people coming to camp and takes them by boat back to the camp. And this was actually filmed in Camp Tamaqua, which any fans of Sam Raimi's films, in particular the Evil Dead films, you will see things like Camp Tamaqua shirts and other little pieces of Camp Tamaqua memorabilia. And that's because Sam Raimi, probably Ted, his brother, probably Ivan, they probably all went to Camp Tamaqua. They do have a sister. The Raimi brothers have a sister. I've never seen her, never seen pictures of her. I don't believe. But they do have a sister, and they had another brother who drowned when he was. I think he was older. Like I don't know if he was older than Ivan, but he was definitely older than both Sam and Ted. I think he may have been their oldest brother. I think his name was Standor. I don't know. It was a different name, but he drowned when he was a young man. Um, So anyway, to get back to the movie at hand, I don't want to bum people out on mind. Um, but this movie is chock full of people that probably almost everybody is going to recognize because Alan Arkin's in this. Matt Craven, who's a Canadian, um, he's in this. He was in Meatballs as well. I was like, oh, I picked two movies that Matt Craven is in. Diane Lane, who I absolutely
Yeah.
adore, is in this movie. Bill Paxton, I love Bill Paxton, God rest his soul. He's in this movie. Elizabeth Perkins, I love her. She's in here. Kevin Pollak, Vincent Spagno, Julie Warner, Kimberly Williams. Um, I'm sure most all of you, if not all of you watching this, have seen these people in different films over the years. But this is a really great feel good film. And
Yeah.
some people are probably saying, oh God, don't talk to us about feel good films. But I was just so in love with this movie that I had to buy it on DVD after I watched it on satellite because I was like, this is one that I'm going to want to return to quite often. So, this is a comedy about 8 friends, and it shows them as kids going to Camp Tamaqua and seeing a moose. And Uncle Lou, who is the head of the camp, he takes them to see a moose, and he's, shushing them, don't spook the moose. And that's how the movie opens, with these kids following Uncle Lou, and he's pointing at the moose. And one of the kids is really young, and Uncle Lou's allowing to look in through the binoculars at the moose. And they're just they're in awe of this moose. And you see the scene replicated when they're adults later, and they're just not nearly as interested in the moose as they were as a kid. But Uncle Lou says there's nothing like a good moose, and the little kid on his lap looking through the binoculars says nothing like a good moose. And then you see the kids following Uncle Lou, and Matt asks, Uncle Lou, were we looking at the moose or was the moose looking at us? And this is just this light, whimsical, brings me back to a time period in my life where I didn't have any worries. When I was a kid, just like these kids in this movie,
Yeah.
and nothing bothered me. I didn't have any fears. I didn't have any worries.
Oh, no.
I didn't even know what being stressed was all about.
Oh, I know. I wish I could feel that way again, don't you know?
Yeah, exactly. Now Steve's probably home, but just if you can bear the dogs barking a little bit till he gets in here and they get settled down. But they'll probably all come running through here in a little bit, and there'll be a barrage of dogs. So Uncle Lou invites people 20 years later that were kids and came to the camp 20 years ago, which he keeps referring to as the golden age of Camp Tamaqua. And so the ones that come back are these main kids that you saw looking at the moose at the beginning. So the same 8 friends that were there at camp in 1972 come back 20 years later. Darcy, be quiet. I have enough trouble keeping my mind on what I'm supposed to be talking about or working. But in 1992, these same 8 friends come back, and Jamie, Matt Craven's character, has a fiance who's 21 years old. Now, you guys do the math there. If in 1972, let's say his character of Jamie was, I don't know, 12, we'll say. So he's coming back 20 years to camp, and he's got a fiance that's 21 years old. Do the math there. I'm not saying it's wrong, but
Do the math.
you got slobber on my glass. Sorry for that. I'm glad my husband loves me, but sometimes being in love with somebody can be a little messy. Okay, so anyway, he's got a 21-year-old fiance that he brings back to camp with him. And the other people come back, including 2 cousins, Matt and Brad Berman. And Matt and his wife, Kelly, who both went to Camp Tamaqua together, they're married now. They got 2, I think, twin boys, and they're having some marital issues. So they're hoping that going back to camp, spending some time away from the hustle and bustle of their adult lives will be good for them as individuals, good for their marriage. And also his cousin Brad, went to camp too. So Matt and Brad are in a business together. They're clothing designers or whatever. They run this company called Roots, which is actually a real company, evidently in Detroit. So, and anybody that knows anything about the Ramies, they're from Michigan, and Bruce Campbell's from Michigan. All those guys are from Michigan. I believe Mike Bender is also from Michigan. So that all makes sense there. So they all show up, and Uncle Lou makes a joke about, you guys are old. You need help getting up the hill. He says, I invite 20, I think he says 20 people from the golden age of this place, and I get you guys. It's a sad state of affairs, but you can tell he's just thrilled to be that these are the people that have come back for one last week of camp. And eventually, Uncle Lou tells them that he's going to have to close the camp because they're like, well, Uncle Lou, is it money? What is it? We'll help out. We'd be glad to help out. We don't want to see this place closed. He says, no, it doesn't have anything to do with money. He says, I told you this is going to happen. He's trying to get Reggie out. Goodness gracious. But Sammy barks every time Reggie comes through here. So hopefully he'll come in. Sammy, I don't want to scream at you, buddy. People don't want to hear me scream. Um, so Uncle Lou says, no, it's about my connection with the kids. He says these kids don't even know what I'm talking about. They've got their Walkmans and remember this was like 1992. It wasn't like now. Now we'd be saying, oh, they're all in their cell phones and they're all doing, this, that, and the other. But he said that, he has no connection with the kids like he did all those years ago. He said, I've had 40, I think he says 43 wonderful years at this camp, but now I think it's time for me to move on. So they're just crushed because they don't want to see this camp close that was so special to them, that brought them all together in one way or another. And so Elizabeth Perkins' character of Jennifer always had a thing for Matt. And they still got kind of something going on between them. But Matt's married to Kelly. But Kelly, it doesn't go unnoticed by her that there's some looks going on between Matt and Jennifer because they were, back in camp, they would spend hours at a time. The head counselors would have to come out and make them come in because they just would stand out there on a dock or something holding hands and stuff. And they have to come out and get them. So there was very much a very deep relationship
Yeah.
between Matt and Jennifer when they were kids. And Kelly's afraid that Matt's falling out of love with her. That she even asking that because Lou makes the girls or the women go in one cabin, just like when they were at camp, and the guys have to go in another cabin. So Matt and Kelly are saying good night one night, and he gives her a kiss, and he's getting ready to head back to the boys' cabin. And she says, have you fallen out of love with me? And he says, Kelly, what are you talking about? And she tries to explain herself, but all you women probably know this, that we are very insecure creatures,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to relationships. I
Yeah.
know I'm insecure. And so, you know, we know what Kelly's talking about when she's trying to explain to Matt how she's feeling and all that. And guys are I'm not saying guys aren't sympathetic or empathetic. I'm not saying they don't love us women. I'm saying that it's hard for them to wrap their heads around some of the stuff we're saying sometimes. So that is very evident in this particular scene. So we also have Diane Lane's character of Beth, or Bethy, as they all call her. And Beth's married Rick, one of the other kids at camp. When they grew up, she ended up marrying Rick. Rick was killed in an auto accident. And so Beth was having to decide whether she wanted to go to camp first, go back to camp. And then we see that she has, yes, decided. We see her Camp Tamaqua bag all packed up and ready to go. And she's looking at all the pictures of her and Rick, their wedding picture, a picture of Rick by himself, another picture of her and Rick together. And she, first of all, she opens the top drawer and she puts all the pictures in that drawer and she shuts it. She gets ready to leave for camp. She pauses, she comes back, she takes the picture of just Rick by himself, puts it back up there, looks at it like she's saying, "Hey, Rick, I'm going to camp. I'll see you later." And then she leaves and goes to
Yeah.
camp. Very poignant scene, for anybody that's had loss in their life, and I would expect that would be all of us at one time
Yeah.
or another. You understand that.
Yeah.
That whole scene. You very much understand that. Um, so we also have Bill Paxton's character, who got kicked out of camp when they were kids. And the story behind that is that at first the rest of the group doesn't know why Jack, Bill Paxton's character, got kicked out of camp, but Uncle Lou kicked him out of camp. And we find out that the big reason why Jack came back, it's kind of alluded to that he's in AA and he needs to make
Yeah.
amends for certain things. So we see Jack digging in different areas of the camp, and you're like, at first, you're like, what's he looking for? Well, it turns out that he had taken Lou was a boxer in his younger days, and he had big trophies. And so Jack thought he needed to knock Lou off his high horse when Jack was a kid. And so he took his big trophy and he buried it somewhere in the camp.
Ooh.
After 20 years, Jack don't remember where the heck he buried it. So that is why he has been looking for it. And if y'all will allow me to get a little, it's not going to be controversial necessarily, but the story of why Jack did this, why Jack needed to supposedly knock Lou off his high horse, is because he heard from some of the older counselors that Lou had hired a guy, Sam Grover, by phone. He had not seen the guy or anything. So he said, Jack basically says, when Lou met all the people that were going to be counselors that year at the bus station, he realized his mistake. It wasn't really a mistake, but I guess to Lou, he thought, uh-oh. Because this was a time period when there was extreme racial tensions.
Mm.
And he said he realized he made a mistake because Sam Grover, I'll just say it like this, Sam Grover was not white.
Yeah.
And according to Lou, he was afraid that he would have issues at the camp.
Mm.
And that's as far as I'll go with that. So what Lou does is he gives him his fare back to wherever he came from. He gives him his first week's pay and sends him on his way. Well, when Jack heard this story, he's like, you
Yeah.
can't fill our heads full of this all men are equal crap and then do something like this. Keep in mind, he was hearing the story secondhand from older boys
Yeah.
at camp. So that's why he stole Lou's trophy and buried it. And that's why Lou kicked him out of camp. But Lou welcomes him back with open arms. Um, uh, Jack does find the trophy, shines it up, gives it back to Lou, and a lot of things are resolved during that weekend. Tensions that were between the original group.
Mhm.
There are tensions between Jamie and Gwen, his fiance, where Gwen comes to realize that all Jamie wants me for, he doesn't want to marry me really. He doesn't want to have kids with me because they have the whole conversation about the she says the idea of me getting pregnant scares you, doesn't it, Jamie? And he says, why do we got to talk about this now? There are guys like this. He's like, why? He said, why are you worried about having kids? He said, baby, you're 21 years old. He said, you got several years before that biological clock starts going off. She
Mhm.
said, it's already going off. He said, well, push the snooze button and go back to sleep because I like my life. Now, how many people know guys like that? I
Mhm.
know at least a couple of guys
Yeah.
like that. And she's really upset by this. She's beginning to realize that Jamie only wants her because she's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's evidently good in bed because that's where they spend a lot of time together. But he and he's probably saying, "I'll marry you just to placate her a little bit,
Yeah.
just humor her a little bit." So she gets really angry, and everybody, including Lou, is sitting out on the dock, and they're just kind of having free time, I guess. I think some of the guys are playing cards or something. And Stig, Sam Raimi's character, is playing cards with them. And all of a sudden he turns around, and you know Sam Raimi's face. He's looking, and what has happened is Gwen has pulled up in the boat and taken her bathing suit top off. You only see her from the back. We
Yeah.
see her from the front, but they're all like loose looking too. I mean, because he's a look too. Okay. And Jamie says, Gwen, what are you doing? And he's like, you need to put that bathing suit top back on. And he starts talking very condescending to her. And she says, I just wanted to show your friends that I don't think this bathing suit shows enough of me. And she's like, what do you think, gang? Does Jamie have a nice life? And they're like, all the guys are like nodding. Yeah. Um, and he says something like, you better turn that boat around and get back to the cabin, or you're going to be one sorry little girl. And eventually she says, I'm already sorry, and leaves. But
Mhm.
at one point, he tells her to put her top back on and leave. And she says she says something like, Lou, do I have to leave? And he said, no, who said that? And Jamie goes, Lou. He said, but anyway, she says, I'm already sorry to Jamie, and
Yeah.
turns around in the boat and goes away. So basically, we know at that point that her and Jamie are not going to be getting married.
Mm-mm.
Um, so a lot of things get fixed during that week. And one thing gets fixed that needed to be fixed before it went any further because Jamie is evidently not mature enough to handle the adult responsibilities that he needs to have. Um, so what ends up happening is that Beth and Jack, who have had kind of a mutual attraction to each other. And I think Candace had to go away. So they kind of consummate their relationship and they agree to take over the camp um, for Lou. Uh, but I know that I've talked a whole lot about this movie, but it is a great little movie. If you've never seen Indian Summer, it is definitely, as it's been described, a warmly touching comedy. CBS Radio out of Los Angeles said that. And even though Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up. So, I don't usually tend to listen to anything in the past that Siskel and Ebert had said about
Yeah.
me, but they did give it 2 thumbs up. And I just think it's a great little, a relaxing film really. If if you're feeling a little stressed by the stuff that's went on during the week, you want to put this on the weekend or a Friday night and watch it. I think you will really, really enjoy it. I really do. And I've been telling Candace about it.
Yeah.
She seems interested, excuse me, in it as well. But yeah, Indian Summer definitely five 5 stars or 5 deadites all the way on that one.
I'll have to check that one out, definitely. I don't know if Chris has seen it or not, but I know that I've never seen it. But it sounds like something I would like. So let me
So
see.
I'm gonna turn it back over to Candace. I know, guys and gals, I'm very long winded. I know, but sometimes I get so passionate talking about these movies that I go on for far too long with them.
Don't worry
But
about talking too long, Dana. You're not talking too long.
but I'm gonna turn it back over to Candace at this point. Talk about another one that she likes.
Well, I guess I could talk about one that I like real well. Now, I grew up, watching the TV shows, the Munsters, and there's the Adams Family, which kind of rivaled the Munsters. I was always a bigger fan, a huge fan, really huge fan of the Munsters, but I was always a bigger fan of the Munsters than the Adams Family, even though I love the Adams Family TV show. I love the Adams Family TV show. Um, but it wasn't, I wouldn't put it in my like top 20 or top 50 favorite, TV shows of all time. I like a lot more TV shows than the Adams Family TV, which even though I love it, I like it, but I loved the Adams Family movies when they came out. I remember going to the movies and watching the first one, and I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with Raul Julia, the one that plays Gomez. I was just so in love with him. And I remember going and watching the second one, the Family Values, Adam's Family Values, which came out in '93, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, I loved it. It was everything that the first one was and more. Um, and that, even though it's not like well, yeah, it's a summer movie, definitely a summer movie. So whenever I first heard what we were going to be talking about, when you brought that up, hey, do you want to do, summer movies? That was actually the first one that I thought of because, even though I love the first one, it wouldn't be considered, really, it wouldn't fit the summer, kind of thing. But the second one definitely does. And it's probably my favorite of the two.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've never seen Adam's Family Values, it's got Angelica Houston. She plays Morticia. Raul Julia plays Gomez. Christina Ricci, Wednesday. Christopher Lloyd as Fester, which I absolutely love his role in as Fester. If you watch the first one, he's the whole, you know, reason for that movie is that he's kind of, he's been lost, he's Gomez's brothers, and he's been lost, and they didn't know where he was, and then he was rediscovered, and he suffered from an amnesia kind of thing. So the first one was really awesome. I love the first one, but the second one is great because I can't remember what the first woman's name was that played. Grandmama. But in
Mhm.
the second one, she's replaced with Carol Kane, and I love Carol Kane, and I think she did a really great job as Grandmama. But it also stars Joan Cusack
Yeah.
as Debbie. So what happens? The big thing that happens in Adam's Family Values is that it starts out and we learn, because you learn in the first one that there's going to be an extra family member added to, the family. And in the second one, it starts out with Morticia giving birth and they have this baby and they name it Pubert.
Yeah.
And you know how Wednesday is. She's always trying to kill a brother, Pugsley, anyway. And the little
Yeah.
boy that plays Pugsley, um, his name, I wrote it down here, is Jimmy Workman. I don't
Mhm.
know if he's been in other films. I'm sure he has, but I know him from, Adam's Family Values and the Adam's Family movies. Um, but what happens is, Wednesday and Pugsley become extremely jealous of Pubert. And
Mhm.
they're trying to kill him, doing everything they can to just kill him. But Gomez and Morticia go and they hire this nanny named Debbie. And
Mhm.
she is played by Joan Cusack. And I love Joan Cusack. I always did. And I thought she fit this role really well. you know. But the thing with Debbie is that she's just not, some ordinary nanny. She's actually a black widow. And if you don't know what a black widow is, which I'm sure you do, is it's a woman who marries men for their wealth and they basically off them,
Yeah.
to get money from their estate and stuff. So she weasels her way in there, and they just think that she's just the greatest thing since sliced bread, and she's overlooking all the weirdness of that is the Adams family. And she sets her sight on Fester. He's the bachelor of the family, and
Mhm.
she knows they got money, so she starts kind of trying to work her web, spin her web within this family. She don't really care about the baby. She don't care about Pubert or anything like that, and she's really, you know, um, uninterested in anything like that. But she has to keep up appearances. But what she does is she knows that Wednesday and Pugsley that she needs to get rid of them. She can't
Yeah.
kill them or anything like that because they would know, hey, something's wrong here. Um, so she convinces Morticia and Gomez that they want to go to summer camp, which
Mhm.
Wednesday and Pugsley, that's totally not right with them, and even Morticia and Gomez are kind of like confused by it, but they they send them to summer camp, on this, Debbie's, suggestion, and they send them to a place called Camp Chippewa, and it's this place that is totally, you know, nothing like what the Adams family, what their um, way of life, compensates. This is totally just out of the norm from them. It's this really upbeat, outdoorsy, in the middle of nowhere type thing. And Wednesday and Pugsley are just like in hell at this place. They're like, what? I don't want to be here. This is just awful. And it's got what is that guy's name? I think I wrote it down here. Hold on just a second. What is his name? Because the two camp counselors uh are these like really, really over the top, like cheery and happy and just like always play Janusz in Ghostbusters 2. And his name, what was his name? He's Gary. Let's see. I know I wrote it down here. I got some notes because I didn't want to not forget people's names, but here I am forgetting their names. Gary. What was his name? Peter McNichol.
Mhm.
He play like I said, plays Janusz. If you watch Ghostbusters 2, I love his character in Ghostbusters 2 too. But in this movie, he's a lot different than what he is in Ghostbusters 2. But he's really cheery and happy, and the other woman, the other counselor Becky, they're like a husband and wife team, and they're like really into this camp, okay? Like they expect everybody to be like them. So when they get Pugsley and you know Wednesday, they're just like trying to make them smile, trying to make them do stuff, and they're kind of conniving because since they're not, conforming to, all the other cheerful, happy little campers, they try to make them into what they want them to be, and they just don't engage. And they meet this other like outcast there. His name's Joel, and it's played by this guy that played in. I remember seeing him in as he got older. He
Uh,
played in Santa Claus as like the head elf. You know
yeah.
what I'm talking about that guy.
Yeah.
His name I don't know it right off, but I'll look it up. His name was or is David Krumholtz. And I like him. I like that guy. When I see him and stuff, I usually like whatever he's playing in. But he's, this nerdy guy and he doesn't want to be there either. So they like take him and force him to go into this like cabin uh, that is full of like all this stuff that they do not like. It's like torture to them. They got like this TV in there with all these DVDs and stuff like that. And um, they call it the Harmony Hut, and they
Mm.
just force them to watch all these errors of stuff that's totally not them, trying to make them into the camper that they need to be. Well, Wednesday and Pugsley, they're not going to let this, break them, but they pretend that it does. So when they take them out and, like, have you learned your lesson?
Mm.
Wednesday forces a smile. And I love Christina Ricci in this. I think, to me, it's probably my favorite role that she's in. I love Mermaids. I
Uh,
love her role in that as well. I love Casper. I really
mhm.
like Christina Ricci. I got to meet her. She was really nice. Chris said that I always talking about that one guy, the one that played Yanu, said he's also a Mr. Bean movie.
Mr.
I
Bean. Yeah.
forgot about that. But she knows that they're going to be doing this play about this like turkey Thanksgiving thing. So they just start plotting what they're going to do, I guess. But back at home, here Debbie is trying to seduce Fester, and it happens. She gets him to marry her. So on their honeymoon, she instantly goes into trying to kill him. He's in the bathtub, and then she tries to throw a radio into the bathtub, and it electrocutes him. But he comes out, and she's like really shocked. And he comes out. She said they're practicing crying what she's going to tell the law and stuff, and it doesn't work at all. She's like I guess just taken aback that he's still alive, and they move into this big mansion, and she's kind of like separated him away from Matisha and Gomez from all the family,
Mm.
and because she knows that they will see that something's going on, and she doesn't want that. She wants to keep him away so she can kill him and take his money. And it just goes into really crazy stuff, and um the thing is, they are just devastated because Gomez and Fester are really close to one another. They're brothers. And I don't know what happens, but their baby pubert all of a sudden, like, because he looks like Gomez. He's got his hair slick, like this solid
Uh,
black hair, and it's slicked down. He's got a little mustache for a baby. He looked really odd. He fit into the Addams family very well. But they walk in there and they see him, and here he is. He's got like I think blonde curly hair and like blue eyes, and he just looks like a little cute little angel baby. And they're just like they're terrified. They're like, oh my god, what happened? And Grandmama Carol Kane's character, says, well, it's because of what's going on in the family. It's caused him to um, do this. So Gomez is just really sad, and he's lost his brother. He can't believe that Fester don't want nothing to do with him, and they're believing that Fester really does not want nothing to do with him. That they don't know that it's Debbie. So, and then it goes on. I don't want to give everything away with it, but it goes on like to the camp, and they put on this play, and all these like outcast kids, they including Wednesday, she's the front of it, her and Pugsley. They destroy this play, and all this havoc is wreaked, and then it goes back to Debbie, and she's just really frustrated with Fester at this time, and she tries to blow him up in the house, and it doesn't work, and then it goes to where she's just doing everything she can to try to get this, but in the end, the Adams Family come out on top. I don't want to give it all away. If you've never seen it, I don't want to give it away, but just watch it if you like stuff like that. If you enjoy the TV show, it definitely goes in with the TV show. I just really enjoyed the movies more. I don't know why. But I love Adam's Family Values. I think it's hilarious. I was a kid when I watched it, so just imagine being a kid watching this stuff. Um, it's really amazing getting to see that as a kid. But like I said, I was in love with Raul Julia, and I was absolutely devastated when he passed away. So that was sad when he passed away. I think he was a great actor. I think that he could have done a lot more. If I think he passed away from cancer, and I think he was sick during the recording of the film. So I forget what his last film was. This may have been his last film, but I think there was one after this.
Street Fighter, I think.
Street Fighter. I think you're right. I definitely think you're right. I believe it was but he was sick during the end of this, and it just, like I said, it just ripped my heart out when he passed away. It was, when I was little, there was a guy that kind of looked like Raul Julia. Have you ever seen Batteries Not Included?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, I have seen it.
That was one of my movies when I was a kid that I watched all the time. I had on VHS, and there's this guy. He's kind of a bad guy at first, but you see that he's got like a soft side to him. He kind of looked like Raul Julia, and I kind of like that guy too. So I kind of thought they looked alike. I was like, well, they brothers or something, but they wasn't. But I always loved that movie too. That was a good one. But yeah, if you've never seen Adam's Family Values or Adam's Family and you like that kind of thing, I highly suggest it. I think it's definitely a lot better than any monster film that come out that didn't star, like Fred Gwynn and
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that too. I don't know that my mom ever saw any of the Addams Family movies, but she watched the Addams Family.
Yeah, I grew up with the Addams Family, so. But I was always more of a Munsters fan. I love the Munsters is one of my favorite things
too. Yeah,
yeah, I just love the Munsters more than just one of my favorite shows of all time. The Addams Family, I love it too. But for some reason, I love so much more. You know what I mean? I love it, but it's not like one of my top favorite films or TV shows. But the movies, I absolutely love the movies. Like, it's just wonderful.
Now, Fred Gwynn, I think Fred Gwynn makes the monsters for me.
He does.
I see Ghost back there too.
He's up on the bed. But yeah, when it comes to the monsters, they all play a huge, like Von DiCarlo. I couldn't picture anybody else playing Lily. And Butch Patrick, he did a phenomenal job as a kid, playing Eddie. And Al Lewis, I mean, I love Al Lewis. He's the best grandpa, that could be in. But I understand if they hadn't have been the people that they chosen, that they would have been other actors in those roles. But I don't think it would have been as great as it was.
No, I don't think so either.
So, it all worked out for good, I think.
Well, I think I'm going to double up on these next two films. And here's one reason why I'm long-winded. And second of all, I think these films bookend each other. So I'm going to talk about the newer one of the two first. And then as I'm talking about, you may be able to figure out the other one that I'm going to talk about. But the first one I want to talk about in this group of two is Now and Then. And when Candice was talking about Christina Ricci, I was like, oh, yeah, she's in this film that I'm going to be talking about.
Yeah, I almost talked about that one today. I love Now and Then.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But not only is Christina Ricci in this, Thora Birch, Gabby Hoffman, and Ashlyn Aston Moore, and I can't remember anything else she was in. Maybe Candice can remember.
Aston Moore.
Ashley Aston Moore, yeah. But the adult counterparts to the young girl characters, you've got Melanie Griffith, you've got Demi Moore, you've got Rosie O'Donnell, and Rita Wilson. How's that for a grouping? Now I know some people don't like Rosie O'Donnell, but I would say they probably don't like Rosie O'Donnell's public persona as opposed to the character she plays.
A as a kid, Dana, I loved Rosie O'Donnell. I loved her show, the show that she had.
Yeah,
I loved, the Flintstones movies are really huge for me. It was the very first
yeah.
film I ever seen in a drive-in theater.
Mhm.
Uh, but I don't know, she started getting rude.
I did notice that
Yeah,
about her. So what I try to do, and I know this is hard sometimes, is when I watch somebody in a film, I try to separate it from
yeah,
their public persona as much as I can.
as much as you can, unless they've done something really
Yeah,
bad.
now there are
Yeah,
certain cases where it's like, ew, like
yeah,
they've murdered somebody or something. I'm really not gonna want to, watch anything that they're in
yeah,
because that would just bother me. Now, I'm just going to say this really quickly because I know this is a sensitive subject with people. But the whole Bill Cosby thing, I'm not going to rehash that, but I still watch The Cosby Show. But I don't watch The Cosby Show purely for Bill Cosby.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of other great
I love
people in
Cosby Show. I love it. I always did. It makes it weird, but if you really like something, you can try to look over it, you know.
it.
But
Mhm.
I love it, and to disregard it because of him, I don't think it would be fair, to the other people that was in it because I love those. And to be honest with you, he was my least favorite part of the show. Don't know why,
I
but
mean, my mom and I used to, laugh at some of the stuff that went on in the Cosby Show and
I
stuff
love the
like that. But
kids.
it was a group effort.
Mhm.
Felicia Rashad, who
Yeah, I
played
love
my
her.
mother's wife in that,
Yeah,
Claire,
I think she did
I
great.
loved her as well. I
I
loved
do
all
too.
the kids. I loved the guest starring people
Mhm.
they had on
Oh,
there,
yeah.
different points in times. So I try to look at the show as a whole.
Yeah,
Did it add something to television at that point in time,
it did.
regardless of Bill Cosby?
Mhm.
Um, and I think yes, it did. And that's why I continue to watch it. But to get back to now and then, um, this is the story of four girls who this pretty much takes place during an eventful summer, as the next one I'll talk about does. And all the things that happen to these girls. And then we fast forward to the adult versions of these girls getting together because Rita Wilson's character is getting ready to give birth. So she wants to get all her friends together again, not for a last time, but like it's a special time in her life and she wants to get all her friends together again. So Demi Moore uh, is a writer, and we see that when Gabby Hoffman plays her younger counterpart, she's always the storyteller in this. Uh, Teeny, played by both Thora Birch and Melanie Griffith, becomes a Hollywood starlet. And I just laugh every time when Melanie Griffith shows up and all the other women are standing there. Hello, bitches, she says. That's the first thing she says. And everybody else is like, including Rita Wilson's character, just with her mouth hung open. I can't believe what she. sad, but that's the character of Teeny, which I love all the characters in
Mhm.
this. Um, we see that Rosie O'Donnell's character has um, become a. I think isn't she a baby doctor? Isn't that what she is?
Something like that.
Um, so it's good that Rita Wilson has has her
'Cause
on hand.
if I remember doesn't she give birth doesn't she help
Hmm.
give birth? Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
and of course Christina Ricci, I can't even talk today, is Rosie O'Donnell's child counterpart,
Mhm,
and I agree with Candace. Christina Ricci
mhm.
is just absolutely a fantastic actress.
I
Sadly,
agree.
I've never gotten a chance to meet her.
Yeah, she's really kinda shy acting, but she's really nice. And Dana, didn't Brendan Fraser make a cameo in that now and then? Is that who I'm thinking about? You know,
Yes,
the
yes, yes, he does, as a, ex-military guy that the young girls meet
yeah.
up with.
That was another crush of mine as a kid was
I
Brendan
I
Fraser.
can see why, I can s
Oh, he was a very big crush. I loved Encino Man and just I remember watching it and seeing him in it for the first time, and I was like, "Oh, yeah."
and we also, you've heard me and Candace talk briefly about the band Badfinger.
Mhm.
There is a Badfinger song in this, as well as lots of other songs
Yeah,
from the time period when the girls are small.
yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of things that happen in their adult life, but the bulk of I guess, the drama
Mhm.
comes from when they were little girls.
Yeah,
And Gabby Hoffman, her her character's parents they end up getting a divorce, and she talks
mhm.
about the night her dad left, and her dad kind of glances up to his daughter's room, and they make eye contact, and then she doesn't see her dad anymore, and then her mom starts dressing in the go-go boots, and I guess her mom's going through a midlife crisis. I don't know how
Yeah,
else to describe it, and everybody is looking at her. How short is that short? How short is that skirt? How tall are those boots? They play the Nancy Sinatra song as her
yeah.
mom's like walking across
These boots are made for
the
walking.
exactly. Um, but this is a really fun movie. It's a very
Yes.
heartwarming movie. Christina Ricci's character has lost her mom.
Yeah.
I believe her mom died in a car accident, and she
Mhm.
actually describes everything. And she says that because she reads a newspaper article, they're in the library, they're reading back issues
Yeah,
of the town newspaper, and she finds out that her dad has lied to her, that
yeah,
the way her mother died was obviously painful,
yeah,
and she's angry with her father, but she's able to come to terms with it by the time the movie ends. She's both both incarnations of her have come to terms with everything. But this is a very poignant film too.
yeah, it
Uh,
is.
I'm not going to tell you that it's all fun and games and all music and all these girls riding their bicycles and all that. There's a lot of stuff
There is.
that is poignant, that is for some people might be hard to watch, for some
Mhm.
people to take in. You've got divorce, you've got the death of parents, um, you've got all kinds of things, plus the normal, everyday trials and tribulations that kids go through, girls and boys.
Yeah,
Um, one scene in particular, the brothers that tease the girls all the time, and they catch them skinny dipping.
yeah.
You know, we're running after these girls trying to get their clothes back. And their
Yeah,
private areas covered, and uh, so I think aren't they called? In their last name Wormser or something like that?
something, yeah.
And Christina Ricci's like, "Hey, Wormsers," this, and they're just
It's
play
a great film.
fantastic film, fantastic music.
Yeah,
It takes place in a fantastic time period.
time period, yep. And,
Um,
that girl, Dana, because I thought whenever you mentioned her, I thought she was the one I had read a long time ago, that had passed away young. It's
oh,
the one that plays Chrissy, Rita
Chris,
Wilson's
yeah.
younger version, Ashley Aston Moore. She actually died in 2007 at the age of 26.
Oh, wow. Was
Yeah.
she? Do you know if she was sick or?
No, it was accidental, um, something, substance abuse. So, uh,
Wow.
it's sad. I
Yeah,
remember
I
I
did
remember
not
reading
know
that.
that. That's very sad because she had the potential
She did.
to
Um,
be a really great actress.
she hadn't really been in a lot of stuff. It said that she was in, a lot of, like, TV series, like Northern Exposure. She was, like, in one episode. She was in 37 episodes of a show called The Odyssey.
Mhm.
I'd never watched that before, but it was on, she's Canadian, so it was a Canadian broadcasted show, but, yeah, I remember reading that a long time ago, and I was like, "Oh, that's really sad," because I really liked her character. I liked her the younger version of herself.
Hearing that she passed away so young makes me think about Brittany Murphy. It
Yes.
it was sad when I heard that
Mhm.
Brittany Murphy had passed
Yeah.
away too, because Brittany Murphy was. I'll tell you, in my eyes, Brittany Murphy was an incredible
Yeah,
actress.
I love Brittany Murphy,
She had
you know,
great range.
and voice acting skills as well, because
Yes, she
one
did.
my favorite, cartoon of all time is King of the Hill,
Yeah.
and she talks as Lou Ann, so, yeah, it was
We
really
could have a whole stream about these actors and actresses
yeah,
that have passed away way too young. River Phoenix, who I'm
yeah,
going to talk about in this next movie, was another one that really hit hard because
yeah,
he was very, very talented, very
yeah, he
talented
was.
individual. Um, and of course, that means I'm going to talk about Stand By Me, which
That's
is
what you
another
were gonna talk
coming of age film. And not only
about.
do you have River Phoenix in here, who's absolutely fantastic in this movie, but you have Will Wheaton. And I
Mhm.
used to have the biggest crush on Will Wheaton. I'm not gonna lie about that either. Especially during like the time period that he was in Stand By Me.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. And when he played Wesley Crusher,
Yeah,
Star on
Next Generation.
yeah. I was just in love with that dude. Um, Corey Feldman is also in
Mm,
this. Jerry O'Connell, and you would not. A lot of people would not even recognize Jerry O'Connell now if they said, "Oh, Jerry O'Connell, he played Vern in Stand By Me. That's that guy," because
yeah.
Jerry O'Connell got pretty handsome in my
Yeah, yeah. I
opinion.
think he's attractive, yeah.
And he slimmed up, lost that, if I can call it, baby fat. That's what I would refer to it as. And he wasn't an ugly kid. I'm just saying it's hard to imagine that Jerry O'Connell from Stand By Me became Jerry O'Connell like
Yeah.
he is now.
What year did that come out? I know that come out probably
80,
around the year I was born, I'd say, or around that time.
86, 85, 86, 86, I believe.
Yeah, it come out the year I was born. Um, Stand By Me is actually the first time that and it was a really big thing too, that I realized that kids could pass away. And it really, it felt like it scarred me, I guess, when I seen that, when they found the kid,
The Ray
during
Brower,
filming, and it was just really, really, I was like, "Oh my gosh," 'cause I realized, people pass away, but it was, like, the first time I had seen it, and, it was a very I don't know, when you're little, whenever you see something like that, it's really something that sticks in your mind, and
Yeah,
it was
well,
always a sad thing.
the way that reveal was of Ray Brower, um, because the kids, they find him,
Yeah.
and they've been, I know it might seem weird to people, but these kids were going on an adventure. They were going on a journey, and they weren't really thinking. And Will Wheaton's character of Gordy says this at one point in the film. He turns to the others and he said, "We're going on a journey to find a dead kid." He said, "Maybe it shouldn't be a party."
Yeah.
And I think that is something that a lot of kids, when you're a kid, you don't necessarily think about things in that way. You just
No.
think, "Oh, we're going on this journey. It's
On an
gonna be
adventure, yeah.
cool. No parents around.
Mhm.
We can do whatever we want. We can cuss if we want. We can eat whatever kind of food we want. It's just gonna be a good time. And Vern even says that in the film when they're sitting in the junkyard, and he says, "This is a really great time." And then you hear the voice over of the adult Gordy, played by Richard Dreyfuss, who I haven't even brought up yet, who I love Richard Dreyfuss as
I do
well.
too.
You hear the voiceover from Richard Dreyfuss that says, Vern meant those things, about fudging on our folks and just making fun of each other
Yeah.
and all that stuff like young boys will do, and girls too to some extent, but I think boys are a little bit more. They like making fun of each other. They like, there's that whole scene where they spit on Vern, they spit water on Vern. He said, "Great, spit at the fat kid real good," and all of that stuff. And they said, they did that whole thing, and they said, "When I look at you, I throw up." And then Gordy says, "And then your mother comes around the corner and she licks it up." And they say, "Ooh." It's just that schoolboy humor
Yeah.
that, you know, Stephen King, which is another person I got to bring up with this movie because Stephen King wrote the source material for this. It was called The Body. It was not called Stand By Me, but I think they made a great choice in renaming it Stand By Me
Yeah.
because what do you think, Candace? Would you rather see something called Stand By Me or just called The Body?
Stand By Me, but it also that song plays a huge part. When I was a kid, I would always, associate that song with the movie, Benny King,
Yes.
and, yeah, I think they made a great choice by naming it that.
But the story is fantastic, and the
Mhm.
story takes a lot from Stephen King's life. And I think that
Yeah.
Rob Reiner, when he directed this movie, he did justice to Stephen King's source material.
Yeah.
Uh, Rob Reiner also did Misery as well, but
Spinal Tap.
what was that,
Spinal
Candy?
Tap.
Spinal Tap. I still need to watch that daggone movie. I
Have you
still,
never watched Spinal Tap? Was
I've
it
never
you that told me you had never watched it?
probably.
Dana, get on it. Get on
I
Spinal
think
Tap.
I think Steve has it, so I really have no excuse.
But then again, you could get on to me about 1,000 movies to get on and
Oh,
watch.
wow.
It's
You're not getting on me. You're just saying, "Hey, this is a great movie. You need to watch it."
I think you would like it. I
I think
really
I
do.
would too. I think I really would. But Rob Reiner did a lot of great stuff, and his dad did a lot of great stuff
Yeah.
as well. Um, but
I think Corey Feldman does a superb job in this film. It
yes,
just showed how great. If you needed any more proof that he was such a great child actor,
mhm.
he's really great in this.
And I,
All
I
the kids are.
I almost forgot Kiefer Sutherland.
Mhm.
And this is timely because Kiefer Sutherland's dad is Donald
Yeah.
Sutherland, and Donald Sutherland recently passed away, sadly. I love Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, me
I
too.
love Kiefer Sutherland, even though he plays a major badass in
Yeah,
Stand By Me. He's a bad dude in this.
yeah,
But the thing about Kiefer Sutherland is he can also play really sensitive
yeah.
characters.
He was
He-
another crush of mine.
Yeah, that man's easy on the eyes, even if he is playing a bad
Well,
person.
his dad was too, and I shared a video that I had found. I don't know if you watched it or not,
I think
where
I did, where they were talking
he
together.
was talking. Well, no, it was Donald Sutherland, and he was talking to somebody. I can't remember who he was talking to, but he said that his mother, as a kid, basically said that he wasn't good looking, that he was ugly, and he said that just kind of stuck with him throughout the years, knowing that he could never be, because she said he was unique looking, you know.
Mm.
So that it was hard growing up and getting into the spotlight and knowing that you could never be a handsome man. But I always thought he was good looking.
Yeah,
And
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Donald Sutherland. People can laugh if they want to, but there's nothing wrong with that
he
man.
looks like Kiefer Sutherland to me.
Mm.
Just like a different type of version, but I thought he was not ugly. I'm like, you know, it just shows. I shared it and I said that just goes to show you the words that you say to your children, how it can affect their lives.
Hmm.
So, if his mother had never said that to him, he might would have grown up with more confidence. Who knows?
So this has nothing to do with Stand By Me, but when Candace mentioned about Donald Sutherland when he was
Mhm.
growing up, it made me think of Darcy, Joe Bob's
Yeah,
mail girl.
yeah, yeah,
If you guys and gals have never read
yeah.
her blog, basically
Mhm.
that she does her kinky horror stuff and other stuff that she does, this woman,
It's
like,
pretty wild.
she had a very bad childhood, I'd say,
Hmm.
because growing up, her mother basically told her she was ugly
Yeah,
and that people wouldn't find her attractive. And how awful for a child to be told that over and over. Her mother told her not to smile, don't smile.
yeah,
And
teeth and
Darcy has one of the most warm smiles I've ever seen in a person, and I've met her more than once. And she never acts any different. She always acts very warm and kind to
yeah.
the fans that come up to her. And I'll be honest, and I've told Darcy about this and like apologized for it publicly when I did a stream on Joe Bob's Mail Girls. Um, and she told me, she said, "Hey," she said, "it's okay," But I didn't like Darcy the first time I saw her. I was like, "What is this?" I
Yeah.
didn't understand the cosplay. I didn't
Mhm.
understand all that stuff. But then I had to get used to her. And then I was like, "I like her. She's really, really
Yeah.
good."
And I say a lot of people, and I think she's even talked about it, a lot of people just judged her for the way that she looked and judged her for her past, things that she'd been, done with her career and stuff. But deep down inside, she's somebody who was really deeply hurt. I
Yeah.
mean, could you just imagine,
She was
life is
also
hard.
she
Go
was
ahead.
also held hostage in a
Yeah.
hotel room for God knows how long with her
Mhm.
child.
Yeah. Could you just imagine how? Because like growing up as hard as it is, could you imagine growing up, with that kind of lack of motivation from your parent, person that's supposed to give you encouragement? And I could never imagine looking at my child and saying, "You're ugly," or
Yeah.
thinking that, you know.
This is somebody that's come from you and your husband or you and your
Yeah.
significant other. You should look at them with love. You should look at this beautiful
Yeah.
creature or human being that we created.
I
That's the
don't care
way
if I
we do.
I don't care if I gave birth to Nosferatu. I would love. You ever hear that? Expression. Got a
Mhm.
face only a mother could love.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of cruel saying that, but I mean, aren't you supposed to feel that for your child? How
I
how
always thought so.
what kind of person are you that does that? So I remember reading that post that she might be the same one you're talking about, and it just broke my heart. I was like,
It
that's
it
crazy.
made me cry.
That's crazy.
Um, so if I didn't already have enough respect for Darcy, I have a lot more
Yeah.
respect for her now. Um, but I will say, if you have not seen Stand by Me, oh my gosh, you must run, don't walk, don't spend money on it. I'm not going to say spend money on it, but make sure you watch this film. This was one of my films growing up. I have several, but this is one that I would always return to
Yeah.
over and over and over. This was my Sunday afternoon movie before I'd have to go back to school or something. This was my movie to watch. And
It'll
mom,
hit you in the feels.
yeah, it does. It definitely does. And mom would walk in the room and she'd say, "You watching that movie again?" She didn't hate the movie, but she's like, "What in the world, Dana? It seems like you watch that every weekend." I was like, "But I love it, Mom. It just puts me in a really good mindset when I watch it."
Can I ask you a question, Dana? Does
Mhm.
Stand By Me, whenever you watch it, does it kind of give you a feeling, that's kind of where, Stephen King dug down in too? They kind of go hand in hand. Do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do
I
you
do.
think
Hmm.
it feels like it is kind of like a Stand By Me type
Yeah,
thing as well?
it's more of those coming of age things that
Yeah,
Stephen King's great at horror,
yeah,
but he's also good at making you like when you read The Body, which is a source
yeah,
material for this. When you read it, you can see those boys.
yeah,
And the characters are so well drawn. It's almost as if I could look over and see them all
yeah,
sitting beside me. That's how good
yeah.
Stephen King is as a writer.
And you can feel the camaraderie,
Yeah,
just like as in it with the group of friends. It's like you can feel, and when it even comes to like the bullies,
yeah.
you feel, it feels real, you
Mm,
know. And I think that's one of the reasons why Stephen King was such a great writer is how he can make you feel, that for his characters.
exactly. And something just slipped right out of my brain. I was gonna
I probably cut you off, Dana. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, it wasn't you. It's just well, maybe I'll think of it, maybe I won't. But Chris does say there are two Nightmare on Elm Street franchise alumni in Stand By Me, and you were right, Chris. He says Marshall Bell, who plays Gordy's dad in Stand By Me, and Bradley Gregg, who plays uh, Chris River Phoenix's character, plays his older brother, and
Yeah.
Bradley Gregg's character is one that he's eyeball chambers. They call him eyeball. Why I probably don't want to know why they call him eyeball. Um oh, I remember what I was going to say about Stephen King, but you are exactly right, Chris. That Bradley Gregg and Marshall Bell are both in this movie. But what I was going to say about Stephen King is the story of the body that's uh, also in the movie Stand By Me. Stephen King said that when he was a young boy, he had went outside to play with one of his friends. And his mother said that when he came home without his friend. His eyes were all glazed over and he didn't talk for about 3 days. And Stephen King will talk about it now because I've heard him tell the story of he actually seen his young friend that he went out with get killed. I don't remember if he got hit by a train and this worked its way into the
Mm.
story or what, But I think he did. I think he saw his young friend get killed by a train, and he just went into shock.
Yeah.
He just turned around and walked back home, didn't speak for 3 days. His mom didn't know what was, wrong until, of course, the young boy's body was discovered, I'm guessing. Um, but some of the other stuff that happens in the movie with them getting the leeches on them, Stephen King said that happened to him and his friends. Somebody got I'm going to be crude here. One of the guys got leeches on their balls. That really did happen. Um, so a lot of this stuff is taken straight from Stephen King's life as a young boy growing up in Maine. Um, so yeah, if you've never seen Stand By Me, I urge you to try to find a for free copy of this to watch or borrow it from a friend or a family member that might have this, because I think everybody needs movies like Stand By Me and Now and Then in their
Yeah.
life. They just do. Um, But Candace, is there any more that you want to talk about?
Well, not as in a sense of talking about them, but I can give you some honorable mentions that just when I think of summer films. I mean, you got the Ernest films, you got Ernest Goes to Camp, you
Hmm.
know, you gotta have Ernest in there. Now, my favorite of the Ernest films is Scared Stiff or Scared
Scared
Stiff.
Stupid, yeah.
Scared Stiff is a film. One of my favorite films too is with Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin.
Hmm.
That's a good one. But Scared Stupid, Ernest Scared Stupid. That's my favorite. Well, I don't know. It's a mix between Scared Stupid and Ernest Goes to Jail. I love Ernest Goes to Jail as well. Now, Chris likes Ernest Goes to Camp the best.
I like Ernest Goes to Camp and Ernest Saves
I
Christmas.
love whenever it comes to Christmas films, Ernest Saves Christmas is right on probably my top 5 favorite Christmas films. I love it. There is a scene in that day. I know the same about Christmas or anything like. There's a scene, and I know that you know what I'm talking about. When he portrays, he's got Santa Claus in the back of this old beat up truck, and they're
Uh,
acting like there's snakes underneath this big tarp. And he's he's acting like this old like hillbilly type guy, and this guy they're trying to get onto this movie set,
mhm.
and this security guard goes over there and he's like, "What's under the tarp?" He's like, "It's pythons, snakes," and he's like, "Well, let me say." And they act like he lost his son to a python killing. He's like, "They're pythons." He started. That's probably my favorite part in that whole movie. But yeah, back to that. You can't forget. Especially Ernest Goes to Camp. That's the big one. The Sandlot. You know, Field,
Sandlot, yeah.
Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
I love that one. Build it and they will come. I guess that's what he says. Um, is that what he says? Build it and they will come.
I think so. I'm
Something
pretty
like that. I know the Muppets. I don't know if you've ever seen Muppets from Space, but they like parody that
I
when
need to see that, but I haven't seen it. No.
well, do you know who Pepe is? The Muppet Pepe, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The King Prawn.
Yeah.
He gets on this fan. He says, "Build it and it will come." It's funny. The Field of Dreams. I always love that film. I thought that was a really good summer like baseball type. And thinking, talking about like baseball films. Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah.
That one's really great. You got just stuff like that. And what's the one? There's my mind going. Playing tricks on me. Um, my gosh, Gina Davis and Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna, League of Their Own.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. How did I not remember that one? I
That.
love that movie.
You know me and
That's
stuff sleeping my mind.
there's no crying in baseball.
But all those, those baseball movies and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Space Jam was a big summer film, that I remember as a kid loving. There's so many, movies that you can think of. And as you was gone a while ago, I was telling everybody, I was like, it might just be me because I love Christmas. Christmas is my favorite holiday. I actually like watching Christmas films during summer. I don't know why.
Oh,
You know,
I've
Home
done that.
Alone,
Mhm.
Home Alone and stuff like that. Ernest Saves Christmas. You know, I would do Christmas all year round if I could, but you would think Halloween would be my favorite holiday, but you know, that's Chris's favorite holiday. It's my second favorite holiday.
Well, I've always said people probably think it's blasphemous when I say Halloween's my favorite, but Christmas runs the close
Yeah.
second to
Oh,
Halloween.
Christmas is definitely my favorite, but I told Chris, I said, "Well," I said, "but Halloween is a way of life." You know, well, our whole house is Halloween based, you know, if you really look at it. But no, there's just so many films that you could, you know, probably one of the biggest summer films, like I said, was The Sandlot. That's
Yeah.
one of my brother's favorite films of all time. I think Chris is one of his favorites. I mean, you know, baseball. Who doesn't think about baseball, you know, during the summer? And I always love those films, you know, like
I
that.
just
So
thought of another one that's for me is a summer film, but I can watch it anytime. And I don't know why I didn't think about it when I made this list or the start, but The Goonies.
the Goonies, yeah, 100%. You know, the Goonies, definitely. Chris actually brought that one up last night about the Goonies. I forgot, it just slipped my mind. But yeah, most definitely. And, you know, just any movie like that. You know, I don't know. Summer, it always, does it seem different to you? Like whenever you're, you know, when you was a kid and you was outside playing and then you'd come in during a hot summer day, sit down and watch a movie. It seemed different, you know, in the summertime. Did you
Yeah.
ever get that feeling like it would just seem more special watching these films and stuff
Yeah.
in the
Well,
summer?
not only that, but you know how I said that I would go to my cousin Heather's
Yeah.
house for about a week, and we'd invariably end up fighting, and I'd be ready to kill her, and she'd be ready to kill me. But sometimes she would come to my house,
Hmm.
and one of the biggest, and she still remembers this too, which just it's really cool that we both remember this. But back when uh it may have been in syndication. I don't know if this was the original run, but when Tales from the Dark Side was on,
Hmm.
and I remember one summer we were eating popcorn and drinking lemonade. My mama fixed a big pitcher of lemonade, so I know definitely it was summertime, you know. So we were sitting there, and the episode we watched, and my mom and dad sat down and watched it with us as well, was A Case of the Stubborns. The
Hmm.
episode where the guy refuses to believe he's dead and he comes down for breakfast
Yeah.
and stuff. We always remember that. So that is a great summer
Hmm.
memory for me. Catching lightning bugs or fireflies or whatever you
Yeah.
call them when it got
Tadpoles.
yeah, I don't I remember seeing tadpoles, but I don't think
Oh,
I caught toad frogs, though,
yeah.
and terrapins, box turtles,
Yeah.
you know, we always called them
Salamanders.
salamanders, blue-tailed lizards.
Mhm. I never caught the blue-tailed lizards, but I'd catch the little the little newts.
But I would see those blue-tailed lizards all over
Yeah.
the place. But, yeah, we could talk about all of our favorite summer memories, you know.
Playing, hide and go seek and, you know, Ollie Ollie oxen free and
Telling ghost stories and urban legends after dark.
yeah, roller skating and
Uh,
eating watermelon and drinking Kool-Aid, and I mean, this is what we did. I mean, honestly, I mean,
making homemade ice cream. Did your family do that?
yeah,
Ice
my grandma
cream?
had this, like, ball thing that she let us kick around and stuff that made ice cream. I don't know, you know, she had the machine, but then, you know, she felt something like that
Did
and
y'all have an electric one or a manual one?
it's a manual one. Yeah.
See, my dad had the manual one where you had to turn the crank, and then
Mhm.
my grand and papa, my dad's parents, they had an electric one,
Yeah.
and we would all get together and Dad, I would usually beg Dad to make orange sherbet. "Dad, make
Oh,
orange
yeah.
sherbet and get the orange crush and make the orange sherbet." And then somebody else would make banana, somebody else would make vanilla, and it was really cool.
My mom always made ice pops, you know, you come with the
Mom did
mold and you
that
put
too, and
with, like,
Jello,
Kool-Aid.
she made Jello pudding, pops, and
Yes, yes, she made Jello pudding pops, just like the ones that you would get, like, from with Bill Cosby, you know, he did the Jello pudding pops, and I always loved, like, the Jello molds. Like, she'd always do these Jello jiggler things, even when it wasn't Easter, she did the Jello jigglers. But, like, we was raised on Kool-Aid and
Like
ice
lemonade.
cream and all that good stuff. It was just really fun growing up, and,
And you
I
couldn't get me to come inside. Mom used to have to make me come inside to eat
yeah,
lunch. I wouldn't come
yeah,
in till dark for good.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of times, she would just come out and hand me a sandwich or a bag of chips or something, and because
Mom would
we
make
didn't wanna come in.
peanut butter sandwiches. And
Mhm, yeah.
there's Chris with his Suspiria shirt on. I see. Chris.
He snuck in on us. Oh,
Um, so I guess I can just say these as honorable mentions because I think these last three movies I think everybody that would be in here would know the plot of these movies. So I'm not
yeah,
going to go through. So I think I heard Candice say something. I don't know if Dana has Friday the 13th in her group.
yeah.
The original Friday the 13th, and in fact, any of the Friday the 13th that took place at a camp, you could have these as summer
Oh,
movies.
yeah, definitely.
I'm not going to go through the entire plot of Friday the 13th because I don't think I need to at this
That's
point.
just a big one growing I mean, that's just a big no-brainer. I mean, that's what when it comes when I was growing up and I was a kid, me and my aunt, during the summer, Friday 13th films, I mean, that was a marathon right there. That was popcorn, staying up late
Me
at
and
night.
my aunt Sandy, she was my big horror movie watching
Yeah,
buddy growing up. So, yeah, we would make something like we'd make chili or something.
yeah,
And I remember the first time I saw Evil Dead 2.
yeah.
Me and my aunt Sandy eating chili and her holding an Afghan up to her face, and an Afghan is not gonna because you can see through the little holes in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But anyway, those are great memories.
Oh, definitely. Making homemade Rice Krispies, watching them.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, we made Rice Krispie trees,
yeah,
uh, and my aunt would let me make anything in her kitchen.
yeah,
Anything. Dana, you wanna make homemade biscuits? That's how I learn to make homemade biscuits. Used a Betty Crocker recipe, and now most everybody loves my biscuits. My cousin Shane said one time, "Dana, these are the best biscuits I ever ate."
oh, yeah,
You know? But, another summer camp movie that kinda takes a lot from Friday the 13th, and that's The Burning.
yeah, I was thinking of that one too.
Yeah, and I think me and Chris on that apples and oranges, Burning versus Madman. Chris was talking about, see, this is the cover. This was the
Yeah,
VHS cover. You see the very prominent picture of the couple kissing in the lake, but the part with Cropsy with the garden
mhm,
shears is more prominent on this 4K and the Blu-ray than it was on the VHS. This was very faded on the VHS, and that's why it never caught my eye exactly. So again, you have a killer stalking kids at a summer camp. That's your basic story of The Burning, and we have that incredible raft scene, which if you haven't seen the raft scene and The Burning, there's a lot of people on YouTube that have clipped that
yeah.
particular scene. So if you've never seen the raft scene, you just want to see that from The Burning, look it up, The Burning raft scene. Just put that in the search for YouTube. But again, I'm not going to go through the whole plot of The Burning. And the last one is one that I was watching yesterday in honor of July 4th. And you see, it has a cool little
Yeah,
cover on it. I love this thing. I wish they made almost all movies like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of Jaws, but totally, especially my childhood, that was a big one. Like with my aunt again, Jaws.
This was me and my dad's
Yeah.
movie. I have so many fond memories of watching this movie over and over with my dad. It's just,
Well, my mom always tell the story because she got to see really a lot of really cool movies, big movies like the Star Wars movies and all that good stuff in theaters. And Jaws was one of them. And she said that whenever because when was Jaws released?
74, I think,
Dude,
73,
okay,
74.
so she was under 10 years old when it was released, and she went and seen Jaws. And she said that she left the theater and had nightmares. My mom
Or
is still
I'm sorry,
terrified of
Candace,
Jaws.
75. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, she was still under 10 years old.
Mm,
And she said that she was just terrified. She's still you can't talk about Jaws. She's like when she's seen that, that was so terrifying to her.
mhm.
And she said that she just had nightmares for days
Oh, wow.
watching Jaws. I said, Mom, but it's not that bad. And she said, No, Candace, you know you was scared of Jaws when you was little. I said, Well, yeah, I guess I was.
Mom
So
told me I was scared of Jaws when I was little. I was like, "Oh God, Mom, don't tell me that." That's one of my great shames in life. The biggest horror fan that I am now, and I was scared of Jaws as a little kid.
I'm scared of water. I'm really, really scared of water. I about drowned when I was a kid. And I've been terrified of sharks and just what's under the wall. Jason don't help, in lakes and stuff like that. So I guess that just forms how you perceive things when you get older.
Mm. But when I got a little bit older, this was me and my dad's film.
Mhm.
No matter what, and I was always a daddy's girl anyway. So we would, anytime this movie would come on TV or whatever, we would drop everything and sit down and watch it. And dad would always talk about the big scenes and
Yeah.
this, like when that guy's head comes out of the hole of the boat and scares Richard Dreyfuss and he drops the shark tooth and
Oh, that scene, yeah, definitely. That was a big one.
the and so many quotable lines, like mostly stuff that comes from Brody.
Yeah.
Uh, you're going to need a bigger boat. That's the big one for me because the whole setup to that scene, he's chumming. He's throwing
Mhm.
the raw bloody meat out there to try to lure the shark to
He's, like,
pull.
looking away,
And he turns to Richard Dreyfuss's character of Matt Hooper, and he says, "Slow ahead. I can slow ahead." He says, "Why don't you come down here and chump some of this shit?" And then he turns around, and that shark is right up in his face. He backs into where Quinn is at, and he says, "I think you're going to need a bigger boat."
Yeah,
His eyes are as big as
yeah,
saucers. I mean, if there is a movie that I could say that would be very quotable, there are others, but Jaws is definitely one that you hear even non-horror fans quoting Jaws.
yeah,
So, and I think that a lot of non-horror fans have watched Jaws
yeah, yeah,
because you can think of Jaws as not only a horror film but an adventure film.
yeah,
Because essentially, that's what these guys are doing when they go out on Quint's boat to try to get the shark, to kill the shark. That's an adventure. To me, it is. Um, Steve, do you need something
Can I ask you a question real quick off camera?
off camera?
Yeah.
Well, if Candace can keep people
It'll just be
entertained,
2 seconds. It won't take.
okay. Well, we're almost done anyway.
All right. Well, I can wait.
You'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, sorry about that. When you're married, you got to talk to your husband.
Oh, I know. You gotta go when you gotta go.
But so I was getting ready to tie all this up anyway. Candace, is there anything additional that you wanted to talk
Well,
about?
just quickly, I was sitting here thinking, and I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner because these are like some of the biggest films, and I'm just to mention them. I'm not gonna go over them or anything like that. But some of the biggest films of my childhood, um, didn't even think about them, is the National Lampoon Vacation films.
Yeah, I didn't
I
bring that
mean,
up either.
with Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo, and
Mm.
I mean those films, the European Vacation, just a regular vacation film, and then the Vegas Vacation, and even the Christmas Vacation. Those are some of the greatest films ever filmed to me. I mean, those were some of my dad's favorite movies. Then you have like Back to the Future. I
Yeah.
mean, that's in November, I guess, especially the first one, but Yeah, there's so many that we can name, but I can't believe I didn't think of the vacation films. I think we was even talking about the vacation films last night, Dana. I think you'd mentioned them, but I hadn't even thought about those. But those are huge summer films.
Yeah.
They're going on vacation.
Exactly. And so, guys and gals, for those of you that are still watching, I can see me and Candace doing another one of them.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
another one that, as we were talking, I was thinking, why didn't I talk about this one? Why didn't I talk about
yeah.
that one? Chris does say, I'm still upset that NECA released Hooper and Quint figures, but they couldn't get the likeness rights to make a Brody figure. Yeah, that
Hmm.
really sucks. What I mean, did his family want too much for his likeness? Was that what it was? Or
At this point, who knows?
oh boy, I don't know if it's or not. But before anything gets any crazier around here, I guess me and Candace will tie this one up. But I hope that everybody has enjoyed this Friday Foolish, where we talked about. And I think I might have just lost Candace. So maybe the storm hit because I didn't lose her during the whole time. But I'm going to try to tie this up. But I hope that you guys and gals have enjoyed this edition of Friday Foolish, where me and Candace talked about. Oh, there she is. I thought I lost her because of the storm. Hey,
Well, it got crazier, Dana. I lost you there for a second.
that's okay. I'm just, tying things up, trying to with a nice, neat little bow. But I want to thank everybody that joined us
Yeah.
today, whether you were in the chat or you were just watching. TJ, I don't know if you're still in here. I kept trying to remember to say hey to you. I saw you pop in a little bit earlier. So if you watch this on the replay, then hey, TJ. And I want to thank Candace, as always, for being on here with me for another Friday Foolish, because it wouldn't be the same without her.
I've had fun
I would
today.
not have a Friday Foolish without her. So I guess me and Candace will get out of here. We're off like a dirty shirt, which this shirt's probably going to be dirty and need to be washed. I generally only wear them on Friday Foolish days,
Yeah.
still. Um, anyway, and I see Miko there. Hey, Miko.
Miko and Ghost, they're getting restless. I think they're wanting to go eat some good food, some leftovers
Oh,
from
yeah.
yesterday.
He was licking his chops. So.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do, ain't it, Moo? We're gonna eat bye.
So we're going to get out of here for the day, but I want to remind everybody, as I always do, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic weekend, and if you can, be sure to join me for the Nightmare on Elm Street and Wes Craven's new Nightmare watch-alongs on Saturday and Sunday, and have your own cake, your own Freddy decorated cake to help me celebrate, because I'm going to have some cake at least Saturday night. So we're out of here. Y'all take care, and we'll see everybody next time. Bye, everybody.
See ya.